Morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We could stand and do pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jake, you can do roll call.
Keisha Johnner.
Here.
Jim Mueller.
Here.
Steve McCombs.
Here. Entertain a motion for today's, this is our special budget meeting, entertain a motion for the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the day's agenda.
I'll support.
McCombs.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye. On to business. Board before us today is, again, we're discussing FY 26-27 budget session. We're going over some more departments. And first up this morning is the county attorney. We appreciate everybody that's been involved so far, and thank you for being present in the budget discussions. Good morning, Jared.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am doing good today. Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to hear a few comments from me. Before I dive into this too much, I just want to say how much I appreciate working with the people in this room. It really makes this job great. You know, I like getting up in the morning and I like the people that I get to interact with. But I especially appreciate everything that Jake Gravely does for my office for this county. It is invaluable. He is really the heart of what goes on here. He does it under the radar. He does it humbly. He teaches me stuff all the time, and I really appreciate what he and his department do for me and my department and the people in the county. So thank you, Jake.
Thank you, Jake. Yeah. Jake is definitely our spoke.
He is. He is.
Yeah, he's our hub.
He is. He's amazing.
We appreciate you too.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And Jared, before you start, I believe I read in the news this morning, there was something that's happened yesterday. Could you update the board and this is one of the prime reasons we have an excellent county attorney. So thank you. So if you could elaborate just a little bit to the board, what was done yesterday.
Thank you. Yeah, we received a favorable verdict in a really important case yesterday, and it was guilty across the board. Last year, the law enforcement agencies around the county, my office got together and we set up an online sting to try to catch people who were trying to harm children in the community before they could do that. We set up fake chats and things like that, and it was a very successful operation. And this particular case, somebody came to Knoxville to try to harm what he thought was a 13-year-old girl, and he got a guilty verdict across the board. So it was really good for our office, and you know, that type of thing couldn't happen without the relationship that we have with law enforcement and, you know, everybody working together to try to kind of proactively deal with crime as opposed to reactively dealing with it. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about that.
Appreciate that, Jared. Thank you. All right, Jared, just to kick this off a little bit, I don't see a lot other than if we could, let's just go through. When I look at your budget overall, I do know that your department, when we come to the salary study, there were some salaries that had to be brought up, and your department was. So I see some significant salary increases to make it marketable for the positions, but overall, you had put in for yourself the 4%, in which the compensation board approved, and then down below, I do have a question for you. We had a county attorney leave.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in the line that's 110,000? Is that what you still have marked for as something for possible, you know, for hiring another outside county attorney? I know that you had a limitation on that. That would be number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down.
Yeah, the line item ending in 551.
Yes.
That is actually Joy's salary.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, the line for the new hire is the third one down and ending in 104. And that I have that at 107. When after the result of the salary survey, I reached out to Lisa and she kind of gave me an idea of, where what range that should be in. I actually posted it below the lowest range of the salary survey just by a few $1,000s, just because, if I think that will give me the flexibility to, if we were going to get somebody right out of law school that doesn't have much experience, just looking around at kind of what the going rate is just in our area here, I think we might be able to get someone good for maybe even less than, what, kind of the market rate is. 107 was the high end of that range, and that's why I budgeted for that amount. I really hopefully can find someone much lower than that. I'm not sure what I'm going to get. The last couple of times we've put out, applications, we received one. And so hopefully now with the results of the salary survey, we may be able to attract some more people, but that's the reason why that's there. But again, I sincerely hope that, if we find somebody good that's out of law school, we may be able to hire them for $85,000 or $87,000 and kind of work that way.
Okay, all right. Also, looking at this, I believe you would like to get your first assistant to the 85% of your salary, is that correct?
Yeah,
That'd be the second line.
yes, that's kind of my big ask this year. Obviously, we went through this salary survey. Ross, my first assistant, was not part of that. His salary wasn't necessarily considered in that portion. And, I've been trying to kind of gradually get him up to 85% of my salary, because I think that really reflects what his position is in my office. He is a 20-year, has 20 years experience. He gets handed the top.
Showing his age.
He doesn't care. I'm older than he is. I'm the old guy. But
Just kidding.
he takes the most difficult cases that come in. And he also is a big hand in our civil work. He does land transactions, and there isn't a really a significant decision that gets made in my office without he and I talking about it. He also takes care of some of the management stuff for our employees too. And so that's my ask, is to put him at 85% of my salary. And if you have questions about that, please let me know.
I just have a question regarding going to your general supplemental. I see you have a significant decrease in your general. Just have some change and regarding maybe health insurance premiums or for the next year.
Which one?
So that's page 5. So it's down roughly 15% of total.
Unfortunately, readers are now part of my life.
Right, I get it.
That's his health insurance
Mhm.
company contribution, down 40%, 120.
Yeah, so
Yeah, we, just little things like my wife has a job at the state now, so I'm not going to use county insurance anymore. So that's a decrease. And I think we have got a young attorney now, who's on a lower plan. So I think that's what that's.
okay, all right, great, I appreciate that. Overall, yeah, your salary increase, that was the biggest line item.
Yeah, the only other, I think, line item that I added was just our internal data management system that we use to access cases. Unfortunately, storage for data has gone up, and that's really what's attributable there. I think I wanted an increase of $1,000 there, just to kind of keep up with what they're charging for us to be able to use that system and store the things that we need to store.
The board has questions.
I just want to make a comment. Number one, congratulations on that case, and thank you for doing such a great proactive job in order to accomplish those things. The other thing I wanted to make a comment on was, we have to say thank you for being mindful of the health insurance piece and making sure that we're only paying for the health insurance that's necessary and appropriate for families. And I bring that up only to suggest that we, as department heads and employees too, make sure that we don't double insure spouses and those kind of things, because that happens. And pretty soon the spouse is covered over under a different employee plan with a different company. and they're carried as a family insurance under our plan. So we're really kind of double dipping on those things, and it's taking money away from the general fund that really isn't necessary. We're just duplicating our insurance for people that are already insured, so just be mindful of that, everybody, if you would just kind of watch those things. I know in a prior life, that was a bit of an epiphany, we went through those things, identified that, and it was a significant change to our insurance plan, just by making sure that we were insuring the appropriate people, but only insuring them one time. So thank you for being proactive on that.
Steve, you want to-
Jared, when you talk about that data storage, is it cheaper to go outside than it is to, I don't know, maybe somehow set up our own data storage?
You know, we have talked about that. Right now, our staff is trying to go back and delete old files that we have to try to lower that. You know, we kind of got hit with this out of the blue last year. They all of a sudden said, you know, they weren't charging us for data storage, and then all of a sudden they said, oh, we're going to charge you now. And I had back and forth with them. They were willing to lower it some just because it was a surprise.
Who's them?
Carpel is the name of the service that we use. We used to use Crow Law, but most prosecutors' office now have changed over to Carpel. It's just a better program. So yes, I think there are ways that we can save on that. First, by deleting things that we don't need. And Michelle from my office has been really great about going through and trying to get rid of some of that. I don't know, I would have to talk to Drew about whether that would make sense or not, but it's definitely a good question.
I'm just curious.
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. One other thing I just kind of want to point out is that, you know, we have continuing legal education every year that we have to take. And most of that, is done by going to conferences put on by the Iowa County Attorneys Association. Basically we can send an attorney there and they can get their CLE credits for a year. But Joy and Riley in my office have been asked to speak at those conferences now. And so we've been able to save some money because when they go speak, we get a voucher for a free conference when that happens. So they put a lot of work into that. Joy's done it a couple times now. So that's one way that we've been able to kind of save some money on getting those CLE credits.
Awesome. No, thank you. All right, I don't have any further questions.
No, everything looks kosher to me.
Thank you, Jared. I do appreciate it.
Thank
Your due diligence.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. On to the next department, that would be conservation. Good morning, Cato.
Good morning.
Find the person.
So I think that's
So clear it out here.
22.
Yeah. I heard that Jim said that he knew this so well, that he was willing to help you
Yep,
out.
I'll just sit down. Oh, yeah. If there are any questions, are you sure you want me to address them?
Just.
Well, I don't really know how I'm gonna follow up Jared with his praise for Jake, but I'll just ditto. Does that count, Jake?
So Kale challenges me almost daily. He looks at stuff and he asks questions and he makes us figure out what is showing. So we appreciate, I mean, that's it. But
It's
Kale
always a good thing.
Kale
Jake's
asks
but
us questions. He walks in, we might lower our head like now.
it's
we're-
okay. Lisa does it too. So.
Man, he asks, he is a learner. He asks questions. It's appreciated.
So I'll just go through the packet here and then ask you questions as you got them. And we can kind of go from there like we did last year if that sounds like a plan. So first off, I'll just recap budget breakdown here. So the total budget for this one will be $1,900,062,529. That is a decrease off of the current budget, and we'll get into that here. The revenue estimates, I decreased those, so you'll see in here, camping decreased by almost $100,000 off of these estimates off of this current year. I don't have a great explanation for that other than still coming down from COVID. We did a rate increase, so that kind of helped offset some stuff, but obviously a lot of that was prior to me starting, so I don't really know. I do know that we had a number of people comment that usually camp at the county park that would go to Roberts Creek once or twice, but the mile-long bridge didn't help us.
Yeah,
I know it hurt Elk Rock too. In camping was down across the state, talking to people at district meetings and at the state level, the economy didn't help. So it's just one of those things. So being mindful of that, that's where this decrease comes in. That way we're trying to keep it more comparative and not expending more than what we're kind of bringing in on that side of stuff. So again, that matches more closely to what we brought in this last fiscal year. Online reservation fees did increase that. We are seeing more use of the reservation system versus the walk-up camping. So that's the increase there. Reserve account is the cabins. So again, we've got the new cabins online for Roberts Creek. That one, I believe Steve just had well, we didn't have the cabins online prior to, and I brought it down to be more conservative. So that's pretty minor. That's 15,000 basically. And then the hotel motel excise tax, that was an increase based off of the revenue generated. So that's 5% excise tax that we have to pay. So that's just that correlation of that number there. So your total revenue is 790,450 again. So basically that's just that decrease in the camping fees. Shelter pavilion, all that stuff is left the same, but that's the decrease on that. Next page on the expenditure side there, Fund 1, that total is 1.4 million. Of that, I've got a little note there. The wages for full-time, part-time staff were calculated based off of the compensation study, and that result was a $34,787 wage increases and associated benefits. So that's when you factor those in. So the Fund 1 and 2 totals are 1,710,779. Again, decrease those, so we'll cut other stuff out of the budget to help compensate for the revenue loss, anticipated revenue loss. Then the reserve, that's our expenditure for some bigger ticket projects that we'll get into here in a minute. So again, just kind of break down the camping. 485,000 for camping between Marion County Park and Roberts Creek. Pavilion 15,000. The online fees, again, what we just kind of talked about there. Shelter house is $2,500, and then the fuel tax reimbursement. So that's how you come up with the Fund 1 part. Again, cabin, estimated revenue there is 220,000. Sales tax, obviously we have to account for the revenue in and then pay it to the state. That's why it shows both on the revenue and expenditure side. So again, total revenue in the budget 790,450. So always the kicker, tax support part of it. So when you take Fund 1 and Fund 2 and you subtract the revenue, that comes to $1,152,079. So that'd be an increase of 46,000. So again, of that 46, 34,787 is the wages, and then rural water's going up 14%. Supplies, all that type of stuff went up. So that's the $11,200 essentially there. So that's that part of it. And again, the total repeated from the first page there.
Can we stop? I just got a
You
few
bet.
questions.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure, because obviously you know it, but I just want to make
Yep.
sure that we go over it. Kale, your fund was 68 revenue.
Yep.
And then is there the reserve? Fund 68
That-
reserve. Is that your?
That's the revenue brought in from the cabins that goes into there, and then the expenditure side is
Okay.
on the expenditure. Yeah.
Right.
So all I did was break it down per fund. If that giving you a different way to look at it, I guess. So
And then I
That's
always ask this, but your online fees, the
Yep.
55,000, that's the My County Park.
the
Yep.
in out, yeah.
Yep.
So it all goes into bank account, and then Jake and I have talked about this. That's the whole show it as a revenue in, but it's actually we don't ever get that money. Like the customer pays it, goes into the bank account, and then like your merchant account, they take it out, ACH, but the
Okay,
money shuffle part of it.
right,
So,
okay.
yeah.
So that's when you have, let's just use an example, I don't know what camping, is it $30?
Yep.
Okay. So $5 of it goes to that, or?
So it's a percentage of so off the top $4 the website takes. So if it's $30, they're charged 34. So that $4 goes to My County Parks. Then of that $30, it's like 5 point whatever percent between your merchant fees and the credit cards, so all those like I have a Cabela's card, so all those bonus pays, that's how that stuff gets paid for. So those are the online fees portion, yes.
Okay. Alright.
So. Yeah, it's.
I think it's important though that.
Yeah, it's a confusing.
The public also understands. That
Yes.
It's something that's
So-
being charged to consume, they're
Yes,
paying that, it's just, yeah.
yes, yeah, and that's where everyone's going to. I mean, the state's going 100% reservable now, so they're going cashless just like before. So it's all the state's going to be dealing with those fees 100% now too. We still accept some cash, so.
So you've made, the other page, you made comment about the cabins.
Yeah.
Is the cabins on my county park?
Yep,
too?
yes,
And
all
were
of
they
our
not-
facilities, I meant the new cabins.
Oh, the new cabins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like Junction, we had some delays, not as.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure that, yeah.
Yes, so, yes, yeah, all of our facilities are reservable online with the exception of some first come, first served camping right now. So, but yeah. Yep. So projects here, just kind of a breakdown. We'll start at the county park again, like we talked about last year. Roads are the big ticket thing there, so we were able to get on this map, you'll see the gray shaded area, the entrance road, and I'll call it the 5-way Y, and then going to the campground entrances. We got all that replaced there in the fall, so that was great. That was arguably our worst part of the road. In the spring of 25, we also did that other gray shaded area on the teardrop loop. So those were our two worst areas, but obviously, like we talked about last year, we've got the white circles and the red numbers. Those are kind of the next problem areas that we really need to address. So number 3, that's probably where we're looking at to do our next project. That's the south part of the campground, but that's got to be contingent on getting the final phase of sewer hookups done. So that once we have that done, all campsites will have sewer, water, electric. So, but that's got to go through the road, so we can't pave the road until we get the infrastructure in. So that's that one. And again, second page here, number 5, that just shows you the before and after kind of the road conditions. So that old seal coat needed to go. Yes. So keep plugging away on that at the county park. That's the big expenditure there this year. Moving to Cordova, we're looking to have the tower inspected just because it was built in 98. It's kind of one of those things. So that's going to vary significantly on what they do from their preliminary investigation. If they need to get cranes or anything in there, that cost can go up substantially, but that 15,000 kind of incorporates some crane use according to the engineering firm. So
I know that.
no, the turn, yeah. So the only turnstile company, again, I'm going off of what I was told from Steve. They were based out of Indiana, I think, and it just became not cost effective to do. So it's basically free will donation, we'll call it. We converted that pay box into just a donation to people. Throw some money occasionally in there, but it's been open more than it's not in the last 5 to 10 years because of that turnstile. So they just kicked it open, I think, in 2020.
Boring with it, because I think that people, it brings people and it's something.
Yeah, it's an attraction, and I mean, at 50 cents a pop. Well, like we said, the DNR is going cashless. There's very few people, myself included, carry change anymore. So,
Right.
I mean, yeah.
You can put bills in there.
Sure, they do the donation, but yeah, so originally they used to have a token machine, so you had to put bills in and you get a token. Token machine didn't work very well. You know, it was the 90s, the equipment. And so it just, and then you have the vandalism aspect of stuff. So it's just easier to leave the gate open to it and people enjoy it, just kind of a trail. So Grove Park, 3-bedroom cabins. I know they did a renovation before I started on the exterior and some interior things, but the roofs are the next on the docket there. So to go to a metal roof, it's about 50,000 per cabin. Those are all original shingles. We want to be proactive on all that maintenance because we can't really afford to have them go down for long periods of time. So shingles, redoing the roofs are of high importance. Also the HVAC system, those are original. And those are in-ground geothermal, so they have reached end of life. If we have an issue with the field, which they did on the original 2-bedroom cabins, and those got replaced with heat pumps, Again, want to be proactive on that. Eventually, those in-ground systems will fail, and locating leaks and that type of stuff is next to impossible, is my understanding.
So this HVAC will be just a regular system?
It'll be, so that's the price between, we'll call it a LP furnace and a air conditioner, and then the heat pumps are pretty much the same. So yeah, I want to talk more of the plumbers or HVAC guys about it, because the 2-bedroom cabins have the heat pumps, you know, and Chris is really familiar, obviously we have a lot of them in this county. I just want to really sit down and talk about the pros and cons of it. If we were to go to an LP system, you could also, in theory, get rid of the electric fireplace heaters we've got and have gas ones like we do in the new cabins at Roberts Creek. But I just want to talk more about the pros and cons with the price. It's like $1,000 difference between the two.
And we're going away from geothermal.
The in-ground field,
In-ground,
yeah,
to go.
yes, because eventually, yeah, all the components inside the cabin, they're having to cobble them together basically because they don't make them anymore. So yeah, Lancer, I believe, installed them again when they were originally back in the, yeah. So it's just one of those, get with the times, upgrade them, and prevent issues, because I know in the 2-bedroom cabins they went down and it was an issue for a while. This was years ago, but so. And then the other big thing, 2nd-story decks. Again, they are original. Talked to Chris, and he graciously said he and the guys will help us rebuild those. So he put together some cost estimates on that. Doing the composite decking, just like we did on the Roberts Creek cabins, that type of stuff. And then adding stairs. Currently, there's no stairs down there for egress and just ease of access, quite honestly, and use of the decks. So basically, same type of footprint. Redoing all the structure of it though, composite decking, and then having stairs down. So that comes out to that 24,000. That'll be a nice addition. Also in that, redoing the doors. They're original French style doors. They're really weathered, and they're just sliding door would be a lot better there. So improving the deck and the doors associated with it there. Moving to Roberts Creek, west side campground septic system, kind of like we talked about the county park. This will be the final phase there. So then everything on the west side will have water sewer hookups. This will be a gravity fed leach field and septic system to prevent more pumps that we've got for grinder stations right now. Those seem to be an ongoing issue for us. So that'll all run through environmental health, like the last one that the county park did and everything. So that's west side there. East side campground playground. The original playground you can see in this picture is from adventure the 90s. I remember when I was little. So that's probably her biggest complaint on the west side there, as far as for campers. There's nowhere for those kids to play and stuff. And I'll be honest, when my wife and I go camping, which isn't all the time, but we look for the campsite nearest the playground. And that's kind of the biggest thing that we've been getting, is we need a playground there. So updating that playground, we'll also get one that has, call it ADA compliant. Obviously, not all playgrounds are and all components are, but at least this one would provide some ADA access. So
Would this put it on a land base?
no,
Wood
wood chip makes it ADA compliant, so it'd be on a wood chip one. The rubber, we'll call it, those are incredibly expensive. They have high repair costs, that type of stuff. So wood chips is a much more cost-effective solution that I run into. So, and it handles a lot better. This is out in a wilderness type park, so it's gonna last a little. Wood chips are easy to replace, basically. So, then again, like I mentioned before, lift stations. So this will be redoing a current lift station pump that we've been having some considerable issues with. This would be replacing a single pump station into a duplex system. So basically divided by 2, and that's how much the cost of one pump and stuff is there. This last year, since I've been here, we've had 4 pump failure replacements. They're aging out. We talked to Jim and I discussed this before. We're asking these pumps kind of to work outside their normal operating range. It's not just like a regular house. It's got a high volume on the weekends, and then it might sit 3/4 full for a week till the next weekend. So it's sitting in that caustic environment, and that's what the companies are telling us. They work, but they're not used frequently enough, and so they get high volume and they sit, and high volume and they sit, and then obviously in the off season they sit all off season. We tried to, this year, we're trying to run some water. We've had decent weather, so we've been trying that, seeing how that'll work. That was one suggestion that we brought up to the company, and they said, yeah, try it. That can definitely help. So trying to do everything we can on there. Unfortunately, with the hilly nature of our parks, gravity systems weren't the most feasible to do. So lift stations are unfortunately going to be just part of it. Large equipment, scheduled vehicle rotation for the maintenance tech vehicle, UTV scheduled rotation, and then again mowers. Mowers have been neglected and pushed down due to other projects over the last few years. So Cordova and County Park, those are next up here for mowers. And then the lift truck we share with secondary roads and the maintenance department. So that's that 1/3 cost of it there.
How many mowers do when you say like Cordova and Marion County Park?
Essentially, each one has 2, and then I'll throw in Cordova has 3. We'll call it because of the trail. That mower, it's stored at Cordova, but basically each park has 2. So, of a traditional like lawn mower, we'll call them, you know.
And the vehicle replacement, on maintenance tech, is that something, I mean, it seems like some of those vehicles, you know, you can get them relatively, is this decked with something, because that 56 seems higher than what?
That's a 3/4 ton, and right now that price is 54,000 that we just got because a F-150 is 51,243.
Do you get in on state bid?
We yeah, we do it just like Tyler. We get the government discount, which is like $3,500, I think. So yeah, unfortunately, you know, state bid, a lot changed after COVID. You know, if you wanted to get one through Carl, you had to, I'm sure you guys had the same problem that we did up north. We got rejected out of the big pool essentially multiple times up north. So they've revamped stuff. It's gotten better, but yes, we do go off of the government pricing there. So, but yeah, that's unfortunately just where vehicles are right now.
And also point out, we're dealing locally.
Yes,
within
yeah.
the county.
If you go off of, if you were to get one from Carl, last time I looked, which was a year ago, it was a couple thousand difference really. So
See, we are trying to, I'm on the, we are trying to make sure that we focus our efforts to buy within the county. We're trying to support the people who support us with tax revenue, so.
Within reason.
Within reason. Within reason.
So minor projects here, County Park Shelter 3, increasing electrical outlets. We've got the electrical service to there. We just want to run more outlets to it. That's one comment we get from that one is people putting crock pots, that type of stuff, wherever their electrical needs may be. Also, this shelter, those of you that are familiar, is kind of off in no man's land. It's overlooking the lake, but it has no parking access to it. So people have to walk 150 yards roughly from the nearest parking lot to get to it. That's kind of the biggest gripe. It's got a great view, but access to it, if you have a big family reunion, is kind of hard. So we've been working on tree clearing, not tree clearing, but branch removal stuff to make a parking lot nearby. And so we'll be working on getting a road in there, a gravel road into there, and then just doing general siding repairs, upkeep, that type of stuff to it. That should increase the use of that. It's already pretty popular, but it's got a great view. More accessible is one of our priorities here. Also, various concrete road sections throughout the park. I know I showed it last year. I didn't include a picture now just because of space, but basically a lot of the cut joints are spider webbing out, and so various repairs on the roads like we talked about. Repairs to the sidewalk and of the fishing pier, and then also redoing some of the support structure of the railing system. Soft trail around the lake. Brandon and I are working on trying to find a way to get a route with just a soft surface trail around there. Replacing the water heaters in the shower building. Those
Soft trail, which is that water.
not paved. So yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Mountain bike.
Those are pretty rough on. There can be a lot of upkeep with those. People can use it, but we're not going to designate it as such. There's
Pretty much a walking.
walking, hiking, whatever. I mean, if they take a mountain bike on, more power to them, but it's not going to be designated as such. Kind of like a horse trailer, there can be a lot of upkeep with it if you designate it specifically for that. And again, there's some pretty steep areas that a designation of that probably isn't a great idea. So, And then tree planting, we've discussed it before, but obviously Emerald Ash Borer came through about a decade ago, wiped out a lot of trees in the park. We are working on that and have been, but there is a DNR grant coming available soon here this year. So we're planning on applying for that, but I don't have a lot of details on it right now. I'm just talking to them, there will be a grant available.
Do we reach out to local schools or wherever for donation of labor of kids to plant?
We've tried.
We do that.
There's trees for kids. In our nationals, we've talked about that. They changed the program and made it a little more constrictive. And so you do have to have X number of kids. It all has to be hand planted. You can't use any. So we've discussed it, trying to do it on a smaller scale, but big scale it's not feasible with that program.
We just think of like scouts and stuff. We always.
Yeah. There's been Eagle Scout projects in the past and on stuff like that. The Pella Middle School has done their volunteer thing. Like we've done trash pickup at Cordova or Roberts Creek and that type of stuff. But yeah, if we had trees or something, that would be something we could schedule with them on a smaller scale. But it's not going to be as big as kind of what we need on some of that stuff. Cordova Park, again, just improvements to the current soft trail, which is the car trail. Kind of maybe some rerouting of areas that get rutted out a lot from or washed out from water, and then just walking bridge improvements there. Trail access to the paved Volkswagen trail from the 3-bedroom cabins right now is kind of like a cattle path, we'll call it, what people make. I want to try to find a way to do a better one through the timber and make it a mode path, essentially, again, soft for now, maybe gravel it in the future. And then just scheduled replacement for various cabin furnishings, the beds, the furniture, all that stuff wears out. We've got 9 cabins now, so there's upkeep in that respect.
Out of curiosity on the beds.
Yeah.
With now these memory foam beds that are really, I mean.
We did that in the new cabins, yeah.
Okay.
So that's part of this, yep. So like this is specifically Cordova, obviously. The new cabins shouldn't need a lot of stuff, hopefully, for a while. But yeah, those types of beds, tables and chairs, that type of stuff we need to replace. The sofas and like love seats, those were replaced prior to me starting, but we've got beds, end tables, kitchen tables and dining set, all that stuff. Yeah. Yep. So, and all that's kind of scheduled out there. And then Roberts Creek, replacement of all the exhaust fans in the east shower building, those are failing or already failed. Water shut off replacement. We've got a big 2-inch water line that needs to be replaced there. That's above our expertise. So we got to have somebody do that because it's tapping into the rural water area. Various prairie plantings. Some of that might be in wildlife areas, also areas that are highly utilized to reduce mowing, that type of a thing. And it'll increase pollinators and all that type of stuff. So kind of a dual purpose thing, habitat and just beautification of the park. And then again, same thing at the county park, tree planting, and we'll dashboard a really good number on all of our areas across the county. So when that grant becomes available, we're going to apply for that. Wildlife areas and kind of future projects. The big thing here, Wilcox and Paul Todd are scheduled for reclamation this year. So Wilcox has already seen on the west side of the highway quite a bit of reclamation. So this is kind of the final stage here. So the east side of T17, that'll be reclaimed roughly 105 acres, 103, somewhere in that ballpark. Final plans aren't done yet because it goes on to other people's property and they're working with them essentially to figure out exactly where the reclamation will or won't stop. So we had a meeting a couple weeks ago. We're planning on having a final meeting here in the next month or two. Those should go out to bid in July-ish, June, July, and then work can start October 1 once bids have been awarded. So that's through a state and federal grant through IDOLS and the U.S. Department of Surface Mining. So basically all those spoil piles and everything will get converted as close to pre-mining as possible. We'll treat the soil with lime and hopefully reduce, neutralize the acidity of it. And then they'll come in and plant it. If there's any hot spots, as they call them, that need to be replanted, they'll monitor that for 7 years, I believe. And it'll just really improve the wildlife areas and make them a lot more useful. So part of this is going to be in the sheriff's department shooting range.
That's what I was gonna ask you about that.
Yep.
That was gonna be my pick.
Yep, so, and Jason's been involved in all those meetings, so they're still maintaining all the backstops and everything like that, they're gonna make it more accessible and usable for him. Improving the rifle range as well, I know the troopers utilize it a lot too, and
The long range.
yes, yeah, they're gonna make some improvements to that, improve the backstops in that area too.
Spent many hours out there.
Yeah, yeah, so, that'll make it, again, that's kind of Jason's wheelhouse, but that'll make it a whole lot more user friendly, and then it's also gonna make our delineation of the public hunting to the north of it a lot easier. We'll be able to put signs in, and you'll actually be able to see them instead of having giant spoil piles in between. And well, the boundary's kind of here, well, it'll actually be delineated now, so it'll be really good there.
I think it's gonna be a very good improvement.
Oh,
I think it looks so much better, right?
Yes, yeah, and it's gonna be easier, like, we'll actually be able to help the sheriff's department manage and run prescribed fire through it, all that type of stuff. Now, you can't do any of that with it, so it's gonna make it a lot more user friendly for people to hunt too and just enjoy the outdoors, so. Yeah, better all around, and it just improves that soil type,
So
so.
I think it would also improve the access to the property in the back.
It will, yep, so part of that was rerouting the road and making it just a clear road, yes, so, yep, it'll be better all around. And same with Paul Todd, that area is just so hilly and
I
thick.
don't know that I've been to that. I'll have to check that out, yeah.
You'll look at it from the road, because I walked it with a couple of guys, and it is very woolly and hilly and tough to
That's
navigate.
down by Marion.
Yes, yeah, that picture didn't come through on my printer very well, but yeah, it's down by Maryville, it's in the corner of the county. So yeah, of our 40 acres, and then it also goes on to one of the neighbors' property, but again, it'll be really nice when it's all said and done, so. And again, we're always working on habitat work in our public hunting areas, and just in the parks as well, obviously Cordova being over 1,000 acres. We've got cabins and everything, but we've got a lot of wildlife areas in there that are wildlife refuge. Potential future projects, again, not to beat this any more than we have, but county park roads, that's going to be multiple fiscal years just due to the high costs of it. Also, eventually the spillway structure is going to be at end of life, and so looking at how do we improve that and the associated roadway.
Where are you at? Sorry, I'm lost.
13, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, associated roadway. Large scale tree planting again, like we talked about, so that's gonna take a long time. I know the campground alone, pretty sure they cut like 60 trees out after Emerald Dashboard. That's just a campground. I mean, obviously we had a lot in that whole park, so that's not gonna be done overnight, and we're always gonna be working on that. Cordova Park, they replaced the current asphalt driveway from Highway G28 that goes to the 3-bedroom cabins. Replace sections of asphalt at the Cordova boat ramp with concrete. Currently that's asphalt. And then just, as we've discussed other times, Volkswagen trail improvements and expansions. Those will be coming down the road at some point, more than likely. Robert Creek, just kind of reference the flap grant that Tyler applied for here for the asphalting from Fillmore Drive from G28 up into the campground. That would be a really big improvement to that campground. That's a big thing that people talk about. And like, hey, it'd be really nice if you guys would have that paved up in the campground. That's Savannah gets a lot of phone calls on that when they're looking at it on Google Maps. And then just working with the Army Corps of Engineers to design and fund trail connections to both Roberts Creek East and West, as well as improve fishing access. And that we're looking at through the Greenbelt funding. So, and then just future equipment, the county, each park's got a tractor, we've got mowers and utility vehicles, Truax seed drill, scheduled trucks or rotations, stuff like that. We're always gonna have equipment that's reaching end of life, phasing it out, that type of stuff. So, and that's a overview of our revenue.
So Kale, I've been doing this for, I believe this is my 8th budget.
Yep.
I still do not, can you help explain to me, because there's always some different fund or whatever.
Yep.
The trust fund, how that works when it comes to.
Yep.
Your.
So
I know
so
legislative
basically,
piece,
so
but-
we'll use this one. So pretty much everything you saw for Cordova, big expenditure wise, that's coming out of that. So cabin revenue goes into that.
Yep.
And then if it needs to be capital type projects, that type of stuff. So that's where,
Do you use those funds to turn around?
yeah, and we have to, like, especially with our lease with the Corps, like
Yep.
all the revenue generated from Cordova and Roberts Creek has to technically be reinvested, we'll call it, back into those parks. So yes,
Okay,
that's what that is. That's our bigger ticket items, yes. So,
Okay.
yep, that's
Alright.
how that's doing.
I just wanted to make sure that I understood.
Yeah,
and,
yep.
Sometimes I can lose my way in all the different funds and.
Yep, and that's why Jake rolls his eyes when he sees me walk into his office.
Right, yeah,
So the expenditures for that trust fund, they have to be capital assets, or can they be,
Yes,
they can.
in the code, it's land and capital.
Okay.
Land acquisition capital.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's suspected.
Yeah. Yep, so that's, yeah, your big ticket items essentially.
Kale, I want to pick your brain here a little bit.
Oh, there's probably not much there.
What are your thoughts, once the secondary road department vacates their current area, what are your thoughts on the site, with barns and?
So I know the board's had discussions with Steve before, and I've had some discussions with Chris. Sounds like moving EMA out there has been discussed, and so I've talked to Chris about that, and that would work, I think, moving them into the current office building and stuff. We've got a lot of equipment sitting out in the open at Roberts Creek and at Cordova, so some of that we need to have behind a lock gate would be nice, and in storage like that. Yeah, I think,
Still kicking some ideas around.
yeah, and I don't want to get too far ahead because I don't know when they'll be out. So yeah, yeah, but that's, we've had discussions about that. Storage of stuff, obviously, that we have outside. We have a lot of stuff that sits out in the grove at Roberts Creek. So storage of canoes and all that type of stuff would be utilized. But if EMA or somebody else needed to store stuff out there, yeah.
But there's not any thoughts on making the public.
No, so they actually looked at it. So originally, it was looked at to see if there was anything that could be done when the Conservation Board bought that property. And it was deemed not feasible back in 1960 to convert that barn. And then a few years after that, Secondary Roads asked about, hey, can we use that for?
Pretty cool barn.
Sure, yeah. So it would be not feasible to do anything like that.
But it makes sense that you guys utilize that.
Yeah. Well, and actually, once the yard, we'll call it, is cleared out, since it's got a nice gravel road around it, and then those islands of grass, I want to turn that into a tree nursery because it'd be really easy to access with our tree planter. And so hopefully we can, buy seedlings from the state. They used to be 25 cents a bare root seedling. I don't remember what the price is now. But if we can have a tree nursery right there too, it's easily accessible. That'd be huge for us.
Yeah.
Because trees are very expensive. Yeah. So that's just one little area there. Again, storage. Other county departments need to use it for storage and stuff like that too. Potentially, yeah. It's in the back burner of my mind right now, but there's obviously a lot of other stuff going on.
so Kale, I wanna ask you this though, from what I read, that was designated to conservation back in the 60s. So I think we need to squish it can't be sold.
Correct.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
gotta
the whole
stay.
thing was bought. So yeah, we had to go. The Conservation Board had to go through a very large process with the federal government in the 60s. Correct. Yeah, and so it was purchased through couldn't tell you what the department is now, but it was basically outdoor recreation, whatever, through the federal government. And it was purchased, had to be used for a park essentially, and they had to go through a lot of hoops to get those buildings sectioned off on the federal government's paperwork to be used by secondary roads, even though it was in the county government. And the caveat reading it was secondary roads would maintain the gravel roads in the county park, and that's kind of why the feds are like, well, yeah, if they're gonna do road maintenance for you, then okay. So that's the short version of the background, but yes, it can't be sold off or that type of stuff. So used for department and potentially other county department stuff, kind of like it is now, is short term anyway. Where we at? So
The history behind the county park and that being the farm.
yes, yeah,
Is very cool. It really is.
yep.
And I would love for down the road economic development and conservation to work with the barn and see what we could do for summer months. So something, I have a vision, but
Yeah.
I know
I
that
know it's been discussed and
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
yeah, there'd be a lot of issues making it a public facility. And yeah, so anyway.
Yeah. Anyways, I know that that's not immediate, but I just think that it's important that the public that is listening that won't be sold.
Yeah, no,
Because I know that in the past it had been talked about, maybe the school had been interested in it,
sure,
something like that,
yeah.
and that just can't happen. So, but yeah, it's always good questions, though, Steve. I think that's
One time we can do that.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we are not hurting for places to store stuff, especially behind a lock and key would be excellent. Trailers, there's a lot of stuff. So yeah, have it covered. So
Otherwise, yeah, I see that your overall budget, relatively not quite 1%, decrease. I know that there was probably you have a lot of line. Let's just say that.
I don't have quite what Tyler 300 and whatever, but yes, there's a lot of moving parts and
So
yes,
Something
yeah, and
unique moving parts.
yes, that are weather driven, and I mean we're a little bit of every department with law enforcement, maintenance, and everything like that.
God bless Jake.
Uh huh.
oh,
I apologize every time I go in.
You
there
guys
saying,
knock it off.
"Hey."
Dude,
So Kale, I appreciate it. I always appreciate your budget booklet. That's helpful. So Tyler yesterday did a presentation. You did the budget booklet. Who's coming tomorrow with who's topping this? I'm just kidding.
You're setting the bar pretty high.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I don't have any questions. I appreciate your time. I don't know.
Thank you, Gail.
So
Yep, thank you.
thank you, appreciate it. Do you guys want to take a quick break or do you want to continue on? Then continue. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure I didn't want to. On to development, economic development. Dan. He's number 63. County 63, number 63.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I don't have a booklet, I don't have a PowerPoint, I have like, I don't even have a tenth of the line items that he has, so we're not gonna get too fancy today.
No, I appreciate it. Dan, assuming as you've kind of watched, I don't feel like we're too difficult when, going through these things. We generally don't go necessarily line by line, but I'm sure there's some things that you've changed in doing the budget and that you would like to tell us about. And I know that there's been some things that you've kind of crossed off, but then added other things. So
Sure, and just to kind of highlight some of the changes, for me, again, coming in from the outside, it just made more sense. I didn't, for example, we have some line item that was there, that 6392, for example, the general county management, other tourism and rec. A lot of that was marketing. So we basically just moved that line item to marketing. Same with business development or workforce attraction. As we're basically trying to tell the story about why people should move here, why they should visit here, why they should either start a business or move their business here. That's marketing to me. Special projects, we can put in the special projects bucket, so to speak, but take the money that was there, really actually, I think I had a total of $350 over those 3 or 4 line items, and just put it into marketing, because to me, it just kind of made more sense, based on the fact that that's what we're trying to do, is tell the story, convince people to move here, visit, and grow here. So we're kind of taking that, we're doing, as you're probably well aware, we're doing that work in the background right now. The branding / rebranding is a strong word, because we're not changing colors, we're not doing all that crazy stuff. Just kind of figure out what our message should be, a coherent message that works across all 3 of those approaches. So that's kind of, again, not a big increase. You see it standalone big number, but it basically is a little less than that same big number that was not marketing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're kind of, I'm just trying to look at where you're at. I mean, I know you got,
Yeah, so I hate getting old.
I know you have different line items, so you have a special project planning, the 20.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too, but we'll get
Okay.
to that in just a second. But yeah, if you look on the, well, mine's set up a little bit differently than yours, so it's.
Well, we're seeing it like you are in your.
You are, okay,
Yep, yep.
perfect.
So that's just the Excel spreadsheet,
Oh,
so that people online can kind of see what's
got it.
going on.
So yeah, if you look on page 2, you'll toward the bottom, you'll see 3 line items, boom, 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 which is market, same dollar amount.
Yeah.
Marketing, which is business development, tourism, and workforce attraction.
Okay.
So that replaces, for lack of a better term, a little bit higher up there, for example, you'll see special project other workforce attraction. Well, and then on the first page, there's a couple line items like business development, other, tourism, other, those, that's kind of.
Okay, so roughly.
It's reclassified.
Yeah, that's exactly, not really, like I said,
You're
not really.
increasing it maybe a little bit.
Yeah, total of $350 for
Yeah,
those
yeah,
3
okay.
items. So, and then kind of not borrowing, but changing at the very last line item on page 4 before we get into the supplemental was last year $6,000 for miscellaneous online / marketing. I just dropped that down to a negligible amount and then kind of put that in that same. Again, last year it was $60,650 for those 4 line items. I'm at $61,000. So again, $350 increase.
So overall, your increase, other than, this, is it, I'm just trying to look at, let's go back up to on the first page. Obviously your salary study, set for yours. And then the next one down, hiring somebody. Are you looking at trying to hire somebody full-time? Or are you looking at trying to, the possibility of hiring and maybe contracting? I mean, I just didn't know how you.
Sure. We're looking at a full-time position, and we kicked this around. There's the executive committee, and then the board, the advisory board of the commission kicked it around for probably 3 different meetings, back and forth, because again, you have legacy costs that go with a full-time person. I get that. The challenge becomes, some of the smaller, littler things that I find myself doing, for example, ordering food for our meetings and things like that, different meetings, leadership Red Rock. Some of those things could be grouped into like a marketing position, because we can pay Bing Bang a ridiculous amount. They do great work. Don't get me wrong, but we can pay them a whole lot of money just for like social media placement, or we can give them a lot of money for ad buying and things like that, or we can do that in house and save some of that money, use them for the strategy, the content creation, going out to lake, shooting some smaller, content that we need. I think we're better off to have that person in house where he or she could just keep that online presence across all social, whether it be LinkedIn. LinkedIn is way better for business development, workforce attraction. Tourism works better on Instagram, Facebook, and things that are very visual. But if we have somebody that's able to, for lack of a better term, babysit that all the time, and raise that profile. Because right now, in all honesty, we don't have an online profile, and everybody, I don't have my phone, but everybody lives on their phone today. So
currently, there's a website. I know there's some other things. Who's managing that? Are you having help with that?
how I am.
Okay.
Right. I mean, we're going to redo that. We're going to make it. We're going to streamline it a little bit. As working again with Bing Bang and the Apollo Labs. What's the best way to tell that story and then lead them to the right? For example, Kale and I discussed, we don't necessarily on our page need the camping. Yes, click here, go over to those folks, because that's what they do. I don't need to keep, and then I don't have to keep track of all of the camping stuff or all that. I spend a fair amount of time just responding to general questions about rental space in Marion County, which is okay. I'm glad they're looking at Marion County. We could probably send them to somebody else that actually does that. And again, I'm not trying to pass the buck. It just where do our efforts make the most sense?
And I think it's selling the county to inside and outside. Okay.
And if you have it in-house, then it becomes a consistent message that is coordinated
Mhm.
and is always updated, where if you hire somebody else outside, then you're at somebody else's mercy. Or I guess there's a potential to share, potentially, of a person, but then that also becomes problematic of, you know, they're serving masters and trying to figure out, you know, what's the best approach to take to those things. I mean, I compliment you and the whole process here with, and full disclosure, I've been somewhat involved in this process too. We've changed the direction of how we go to market, if you will, of presenting Marion County as a destination to the marketplace, both as a place to live, as a place to go to recreate, and a place to get a job. I mean, we've changed that whole process exactly to your point of, there was once a time where we would spend an inordinate amount of our budget on printing brochures and then hand them out.
Right.
And then they would either sit or get trashed or whatever, people put in the fireplace and use that. And now we're much more digitally presence that becomes a lot more attractive for the youth and for, you know, people like me we've switched. I don't like to get mail. I don't like to have mail.
Right.
I don't like to have all that stuff. I'd much prefer having an online, being able to get in. So there's a pivot going on right now of how do you do it? How do you present yourself? And then how do you manage it on a go forward basis? And I think right now we're still in the transition year of switching out the old model and going into a new model. So we're experiencing and will experience some additional expenses here in this department that may smooth out as we, you know, get through some of these transitions. Sure. And exactly your point of, you go to this website, do you need to have all of that information on there, or do you just need a hot link that goes over to mycountyparks.com and says you want a rental, space rental, boom, click here. It still starts on the development page, but then it quickly goes over to the other page. Those are the kind of things that we're trying to manage. You know, when you start looking at these things and think, oh yeah, you know what, we're increasing by 10%. Okay, I get that, but the dollar amount is not significant. And I also look at the investment in the opportunity for economic development, which, as I just said, flows through in 3 different formats: recreational development, business development, and housing development. So I think long-term investments here will come back to generate a significant amount of either improved tax revenue, tax base, visits, and what our citizens experience from a recreation standpoint. I think it's all going to be a positive impact if we make a little bit of investment.
Oh, and I just out of curiosity, had Bing Bang quote. Basically what, I said, just give me a quote for, you know, I hate to use the term babysitting or social media, but essentially doing that. And for a very basic, I mean, maybe 3 posts a month, and some other smaller stuff, they were over this, including benefits. So, and that, I mean, you know, of course they put strategy and other things like that, which we need to do, and kind of updating our creative, which we will have to do, but not for another year, because we're going to due to some grants that we received. We're going to have a fair amount of content created already. We are having them do some very designated stuff this year. But yeah, it's, as Jim said, we are moving into the implementation, getting the word out. And also, you know, if you have Bing Bang, anytime we'd ask them to do anything different or additional, like if we need to be on social media like tomorrow or today, that's an additional expense as well. They don't, you know, they're not on call, I guess is what I'm saying. So, but it's a great point.
The workforce attraction piece, or that piece of contacting the businesses and finding out, you know, where they're at, are they, you know, adding succession?
Oh yeah, BRE, yeah.
Yeah, is that, what do you call it?
BRE, business retention and expansion.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm assuming that is also something this position could.
We would share that. Yeah, we would share that.
It's a lot, really.
Well, yeah, because right now I just focus on the big players, and I hate to say that out loud, but that's what I have time for. You know, but there's a lot of those small and medium that could be the next. It could be the next Wilder, could be the next Premier, could be the next whatever. And if we're not providing them the support that they need or helping fix the problems they have now, they're not gonna get to that next level,
So
so.
they're gonna go somewhere else.
Well, exactly, God forbid that happens, so, yeah,
Right.
so we just need to, yeah, that BRE is, that's more into the, yeah, the business development, but that is key. We've had some, yeah, I've been emailing back and forth with some of my counterparts in other counties, just trying to figure out where the best. I prefer the face-to-face, sit down, we may not get through the questionnaire completely, but that rapport is built as opposed to shooting them, fill out this 75 question, which they're probably not gonna do anyway. And try to get to the right person that has those answers. So. Now, you've met, I mean, if you want, we can tackle the, I do want two more things if I could. Again, back to getting old, I apologize here. Second page, third line item. That's always kind of existed as a special project other. That is, we're seriously considering, and one of the things that's kind of popping right now amongst other EDOs or economic development organizations is podcasts. It helps elevate your social media. It helps supplement that. It helps get your word out, especially when you're looking at other like attracting businesses. Of course, we want to be smart about who we attract. We don't want to compete with who we already have, but there's some niches that we don't have to build in this county. But we can also use that across all three of those. Why should you move here? We can tailor each one. Typically, those are in the neighborhood of $25,000. However, I think we have a really good partner in Central College. They already have the studio. They have all that. I haven't reached out to them yet, but I'm hopeful that we can put out a couple a month, just utilizing what they have and working together in partnership to tell that story. City of Clinton's doing it right now. The Iowa Lakes corridor up around, of course, the Okoboji area. He was one of the first in the state, and his viewership is pretty. Well, of course, they've got a beautiful area to sell, as do we. So let's leverage that. Let's tell those stories any way possible. And where the eyeballs are is online right now, and also podcasts. So we do visual / audio, so we can use both. So
Awesome.
But that's why that one is in there. And then really the other, and really what makes up more than makes up for the increase that we've been talking, that you mentioned earlier, that 10 or 11%. That 20,000 on the very bottom of the first page. At our last board meeting, I kind of challenged the board a little bit, and Jim was there. I'm sorry.
Are you talking about workforce attraction or?
No, but it's the special project planning for $20,000. Pig one, sorry. And these are some of the things that came out of that. Should have so first. You get what?
Thanks, buddy.
Some of the things like an annual meeting that we used to. I understand we used to do an annual meeting to let the public know what we're working on. And I'll let the folks in the county know that we are tackling ABC. That's relatively minor. Plus, they pay money to come on in and to actually listen to us do that. But maybe then we think about combining the 10 under 40 in a different fashion, and the best of Red Rock in a little bit different fashion, where we still highlight those things that are going well in our county, but we're not having all these programs. We're able to celebrate the people that are making an impact countywide. So kind of a little bit like Pella does with their impact awards, but this is a little bit of a tweak. Some other things you'll see on that list, there's been discussions about maybe just trying to drive more people to the lake. I mean, every person I talk to out in the public, elected officials, the lake is still underutilized. It has so much potential. We need to spread out more than just a few weekends a year. So leverage, maybe we find ways to get more campers at it, because from the previous discussion, we're down a little bit. So how do we supplement that? And everything has a cost. If you're looking at a music, I hate to. We've got a lot of experience putting on music festivals, so it's very knowledgeable on how much it takes to do that. And I'm not saying that's where we're going, but we still have to flesh that out a little bit. But if we don't have those things in the budget, obviously that's not going to happen at all. Or we can go the other direction and look at like a certified site that helps drive development. Is it around Pleasantville? Is it around, now those are typically, if you go through, IEDA has has their certified site program is. You can get a 50-50 match, but the match on our end would be 37.5. Now, you have to be, within 6 months, everything has to be ready to go. We're not there yet. But we can do some of those things like, the environmentals that you need to have done on a certain site. Make sure as many of your ducks in a row as possible. Greater Des Moines Partnership has an RFI Ready program, which is way cheaper. It'll probably be $5,000 to $10,000 depending on where you're going.
So this is kind of a wish list.
It's not even a wish list, just is it certain thing to get things going. Where should we be looking? Because I think one of the commissioners last time, he goes, if you're happy where you're at, don't ask for any more money. And we should be, I think, start to think bigger, start to think other things. How do we get more? And we may do none of those. We may have something else that pops up and we just say, but I'm not big on putting money in the budget, just put money in the budget. So if we had a little bit.
Certainly, yeah, we just don't
Thank
have
you.
it to do it, yeah.
And we still have to wait to see what our friends in the state legislature, do here in the next couple of months. So.
I have often wondered why we don't have an eagle camp, why
Yeah.
the Corps doesn't. I mean, I'm blessed, I get to see the eagles about every day because of where I live. But there's a lot of people that love that,
Well,
so.
people the Cora Eagle Camp, I mean, that place is just huge. So we just need to figure out, is there a way to do that? That's probably a high number for that, it's probably more web hosting than anything, quite honestly, especially with the technology they have nowadays. And then we can lead, I don't know why we don't lean into the Eagles. The amount of people I see parked, I was talking to them, I was at the marina parking lot the other day. They came up from like 3 counties over. They came over just because they figured this would be the place to be. Thank God they were there that day. The Eagles were there that day. So I just talked to them and asked them, why are you here? They did mention it would be nicer to have something more around the lake and we've had those discussions, so.
Yeah, I don't think people really realize just how many eagles there are in our area. I mean,
Yeah.
well, 12 months out of the year, they're all.
Yeah.
So I think and that's low hanging fruit. I mean, that's something that's already here. That's literally a natural aspect of our community or of our county that we could leverage. And again, it's another set of eyeballs on what's going on here. So.
As a housing program, Ben, on the grants and cost share opportunity. The acronym BNSF, is that Burlington Northern Santa Fe?
Yeah. So now that that's under the site selection, I think they have their own site selection program. And now that there might be Union Pacific, I don't know what UP's getting bought out or getting merged with it looks like. But yeah, BNSF has its own site selection kit. And I was thinking specifically like Pleasantville, because that runs right through there. The north side, that ground is all, it's very easily developed, that type of thing. So again, that's just, if we don't put it out there, if we don't start talking about it, and plus it's cheaper than going through IDA. But and they are a little more flexible on their timeline for, let's just hypothetically, natural gas, which could take a while to get in that part of the world. So. But at the end of the day, it's you just tell me what you want me to do, and we'll do it. So that's why
I
I'm here.
appreciate it, I'm glad.
That's why I'm here.
I like your creativity, I obviously, we have been blessed, you've been, you hit the ground running, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And, I don't have any further questions. I do see you, I guess, I do, just as a statement, I do see that, you do have a little bit of revenue that comes in, so that does help offset a little bit, roughly 26,000.
That should be, I was very conservative on
Yeah.
revenue.
No, I get it.
Obviously
There'll be some grants that'll come up and maybe you can apply for. And,
Well, this year, we've done okay this year.
We've had some real surprises.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, we're in the neighborhood of 54,000 for this year that we brought in, so, I like shaking the tree to see whatever falls out when it comes to grants, and there's a couple other ones that I think in the future, but again, I'd like to under promise and over deliver if at all possible when it comes to revenue.
Yeah, anybody else? No. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks for your time.
Yes.
Thank you for being proactive.
But thank you.
and thinking outside the box.
Okay, EMA. So EMAs have that's gonna be last year's. So you're gonna wanna look at this sheet and you're gonna need your readers. We need to have like a magnifying glass, cause you know, some of us might struggle.
Oh, yeah, it needs to be bigger.
So, let me ask you this.
I'll forward it right now.
I mean,
That's my.
cause I think we experienced this last year too, right?
Yes.
So why can't we get it in on time?
We didn't have our commission meeting until last. Yeah, it's the problem is because you have a commission, you have to go through the commission to be able to approve and then. We had 2 meetings.
So we can't put it before the commission before last night? When was the last, I guess I'm just slightly irritated that every other department made the timeline except one.
Yeah, so just as a side.
And this is not on you, I'm just in general saying, why can't we meet a deadline?
Yeah, so just isn't from a big picture standpoint, EMA, 911 and the assessor run completely separate budgets than us. They're in our system for cutting warrants and things like that, but that's their board's authority. So we have it, it's classified as a non-budgetary for worksheet is what they're classified as, right? So they go through their whole public hearing process separate. They're setting, I don't think assessor has gone through that yet. So just from a standpoint of, is it required to be in our system for all these budgetary funds? It's not required for what you need to do to set levies and do all that. All 3 of these are completely outside of,
So this
the
is
county
really
dollar.
an FYI process.
Yeah, so the key out of this budget is how much the department is asking that's in Department 99 is the county grant portion or the county funding portion. That is in here. They provided that number. The detail of how it's broken out goes into our software as a benefit to help them on the month and to help you guys. I actually spoke with Jeff yesterday about putting when he gets those that we input these into the system. We can do that at any point. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's not beneficial to you to have those a little bit more ahead, that type of thing, but it's not required from a county process to set your levies or budget because it's outside.
Request for Department 99, he's part of
It
our
is.
spending process.
That level of request, at least before last night, I don't know if it changed last night, is in, they provided that. And the max amount that the county would provide to fund the EMA department next year is in Department 99 at that level of request.
And could not have been developed prior to last night.
That request they did develop in there. These individual line items, I get it. I just wanted you to be
the devil's advocate.
I understand. But I just wanted to be that they do have their outside authorities, their own forms. They're not summarized our COAs at all, the state forms.
They
And
take the money and transfer it.
yeah, we put it in if they provide those to benefit month ends and things like that. So could it have been done ahead, Jim? Yes. But it's not required for your.
I'm not disputing
Right.
all the other stuff,
Yep, I get it.
I'm just suggesting that, you know what, we've clearly articulated expectations of when this stuff needed to be done, this is not a surprise. And it didn't make it again this year. This is I've only been here, this is my second budget, and so far we're 0 for 2.
So, it is on page 14 and your Department 99 of the ask. That's not right. Can you look at that, Jake?
What are you looking for? Sorry.
I'm looking at the wrong line.
The ask?
Yeah.
Is that where you want to go?
What is it for that?
I think it's 260.
It's supposed to be 260.
It is, but why is it?
Wonder if it didn't get changed on there. When we approved it yesterday, it was 260.
Okay, but it says 310.
Yeah, I saw that.
So it is 260?
Yeah.
We just looked at this yesterday.
So Emily, I don't know if Jake's or if Jeff's online, I think
It
it's.
is.
So it's in
it as 260.
it's in at 260.
I wonder if, yeah, it just didn't get printed correctly.
It's not on this report.
It's not, sorry, it's not.
I look at the county, so the county is expecting an expense out of Fund 2 at 260. That's what's in,
And that's in our budget.
that's in our budget, so when
Correct. We're talking
so
about
that
the sheet.
that flows, oh, you're looking at their budget, I'm sorry, I was like having a little heart palpitation,
No,
like,
no, no.
because that would affect your fund balance, right?
Right,
That's
yeah.
the direct response, yeah.
Okay, so. And
Oh,
what
I do
gives,
see contribution 260 here. County contribution 260.
here,
Sorry.
why is
Then
it
I don't know why the detail is.
down here,
Come back.
310?
Well, they have other funding, I'm not sure, I haven't looked at their, but
It's 260.
I don't mean to be speaking for you, Emily, but they may have more expenses than 260. 260 is just the county portion. If there's grants or other revenues, that could go in towards the total if that's what we're talking about.
260 is the county contribution, you're right, yep, and that's at the top.
Yep, and that, in this side, it's on.
Yep, and so let's go through the rest of it. Yes, you're correct, it is, so look at the top here. Because of these forms are so, especially when it comes to this, look at clear at the top.
260, I see it.
Yep, okay, yep. And, would it make it easier if we could have it into our form? Yes, it would. And what I would ask is that if we can do the hypothetical would be the max, obviously, and then, of what you would be asking, and then obviously, if the meeting is afterwards, before, like it was last night, then we can come back and say, hey, they didn't approve
Revise.
this, yeah,
And amended.
yeah, so, and then you can amend it afterwards. It is helpful just so we have, but we have what it was from last year, which I knew then also made it so it was a higher balance, so I knew it was gonna be less. So,
I'm hopeful that next year we can make things a little bit more time friendly, just because this year we approached our budgets totally different with more ask from the commissions. So I'm hopeful now that we have a time frame and kind of what that looks like and how we need to place our meetings going forward should be.
and you're talking, when you're trying to get the amount of people that you have to get together when it comes to. Sometimes doing the Google, or the Doodle poll, it takes a while, and,
But
not
we'll
everybody
try.
understands, how important it is to get it into the time.
That's all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Understand.
It just makes everything a little more difficult.
Yeah.
so
For
roughly, your ask was decreased, and the commission just determined not to do a vehicle replacement fund, which would have been 40,000.
Correct, so we removed that.
Yep.
And we decreased our hazmat from 50,000 to 45,000.
Good.
We have taken a lot of that training in-house. That obviously still has to stay because we never know what will look like if it occurs in our county.
Yep.
There is a revenue that is not in there, and that's for the emergency management performance grant that we receive usually every year. With things being unsure in grants right now, we weren't sure if we were gonna receive that 28,000. So we removed it from the budget completely. It's looking promising that that's something that we are going to receive. But with the unknown, we did go ahead and remove that, so that could be an added 28,000.
Yeah, that, I mean, that definitely could be of those, but. I did say, I just don't wanna count on it, it just, I wanted it to be, if it was the worst case scenario, so.
And for the most part, I think it's all pretty well the same. The health insurance, you are gonna see a decrease from this year to next year. And that's just basing it off of actual costs versus basing it off of, an estimate plus the escalator, so.
Okay. Alright. Fuel gone up just a little bit. Vehicle, obviously, expenses gone down because you have the newer vehicles. I don't have any questions, obviously, I serve on that board, so. But, if you could, Emily, when Jake sends out the sheets to, if there's any, updates, if you could just plug and play into the sheet, so then we have it, and then we can get those, that would be helpful. So then we just have it, and then you could make yourself a note that we just do that for next year, so I'd be grateful. Otherwise, do you, anybody else have any questions for Emma?
I'm thinking outside the box and big thinking, planning and those kind of things. And we just talked about when we move the county things away from County Park and move it out to 92 and the potential of moving emergency. That's everything you guys out there. And this is not something, I'm just asking something to start thinking about of what would that cost look like and where would those expenses be shared and what kind of county support would we need in order to make that thing possible and work? And would that be a benefit for you guys to be out there rather than where you are today? And again, and this is gonna be a question for you and IT tomorrow, and that is what would be the cost? I recognize we can't sell that shop and those kind of things, but the old 3014 then becomes a non-used facility from the county except for the shop and back. And there's room potentially out in the other place for that too, so.
We have talked about that immensely, kind of how Kale had mentioned, there's been conversations about it a lot.
Yep.
Obviously there is a perk to, if we were to move out there, just because we have so many trailers, so many assisting trailers that sit outside, right? And just like Kale, they weather, so, the maintenance on those things it costs money, so being able to put all of that stuff inside. Yeah, it would be beneficial. There are things that we have to look at though on upgrades when it comes to creating an emergency operations center inside of that office building, right? So the updates that would need to be made to that. I think they already have a sign shop in that warehouse now. So obviously we would have to make sure that that fits the needs for address markers and street name signs for the county. It could work, but there are those things that, yes, and it would be beneficial. We do a ton during nationals, we do a lot with the schools, so being close to those areas at that point in time, it would be beneficial.
Just
No,
something to think about on a go forward basis. We can't execute something in a year or 2 years down the road if we don't start talking about it today.
Yeah.
That's why that's. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Let's take a 10-minute recess, and we'll come back and. Jake, what do you think about going over Department 99?
Sure, whatever you guys want.
I'd like to do that, okay? So when we come back, we'll take on Department 99, but I'll entertain a motion to go into a 10-minute recess back at 10:40.
So moved.
Second,
McCombs,
aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
John.
Aye. Thank you. Entertain a motion to reconvene. Jake, are you recording again?
Yep. But thank you for inviting me.
Reconvene, go into session.
Second,
Mueller,
Aye.
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs.
aye.
So far, we've heard from departments, board, I would like to go over just really quick before I forget this. I had discussed, there's some departments that are not necessarily presenting because they have very little change. I would suggest that you go, just look at those before tomorrow, if you could, and that would be like auditor and our reporter, zoning, veterans affairs. So, they're really only change in there was their salaries, and so. Yeah, questions. I just didn't feel like we needed to take up a whole time of them coming and then just saying the salary study, give us our salaries, so, yeah. Okay. We are now on to Department 99. That is something that I kind of a catch-all when it comes to there's several things that doesn't have a department of its own. It just is called non-departmental. And Jake, if you could, I know this is something you assist the board with, but we could just kind of highlight maybe some of the bigger projects that we're looking at, if you saw any big changes.
Yeah, so forgive me for not knowing each one individually. So if you're on the Department 99 tab in the back, and just to go through some highlights and some notes that maybe our office wrote, and you want to just kind of scan each page, or do you have specific questions that you want to make sure you address? So this is, like Keisha said, it's the catch-all. And sometimes there is maybe not something directly tied to it, but it gives you some flexibility, right? So if you're on, I believe it would probably be page 1 for you if we reprinted, and I'm going to use the note sheets that Danny and I use. But like the very first one is HERDA. So, I don't know how detailed you want to get, but forever, as long as I can remember, we've been funding HERDA at like $30,000, excuse me, $36,000 or $3,000 a month. They send us an invoice, we send them that. We will do that as long as you guys continue. I believe we have to be part of a public transportation program, and this is our portion of that to get the services. We don't in the past years, sometimes they come for one-offs, like a part of a vehicle purchase or something like that. We don't generally budget for that. So that, again, this is just ongoing, but I just want you to be aware that that's what this is. And if any of these, it's a budgeted amount, it would not get spent without your approval. Right. So HERDA, the next one is actually Lindsay's number that you would see for elder nutrition. So this is the amount that Lindsay has projected, speaking for her, she's sitting in the room, but this would be like she has gone through and done a budget for the elder nutrition program, and this is what she feels it would be needed for the county's grant portion of it to fund it. So whatever's left outside of the other revenues they're going to get. So this year, on her side of that budget, on the revenue page, she'll have 39,000. So we put 39,650 from the general fund to that would be the county's portion to fund that.
Is that just to plug and balance that for other revenues versus expenses? And then that's what was needed to balance it?
Yep, that's what I projected for next year. So I do a quarterly draw based on actual amounts. So after the quarter has finished, I draw from the Board of Supervisors from that Department 99.
Are we getting more revenue from other sources, or are we reducing the amount of congregate meals within our needs or overall?
So I would say we're reducing the amount of meals, and we've seen a reduction, and it's fluctuated a little bit, a few people here and there, but I do think we can reduce it from last year a little bit more.
Okay.
And then it's on a sliding fee scale. So some people do pay something towards their meals, and then this amount from the general fund is the difference.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So the next number is, again, one we generally talk about each year, and it has 100,000 for environmental cleanup. This is something that does not have a specific project to it. It wasn't budgeted in the past, and then several years ago, there was a specific property that had a lot of ongoing stuff, and they weren't sure how much it was going to cost. So the supervisors programmed in 200,000 for a what if we have a cleanup situation that was held along the line for a few years, and then it was reduced to $100,000. So this is giving the board flexibility if there is a cleanup situation that comes up that we wouldn't have to do an amendment, but nothing that I'm aware of is specifically tagged for this line item. So again, it's $100,000 that shows expense, affects that ending fund balance, but won't be used unless something comes up or unless it's removed. Is this kind of how you want to do it?
In that project that I remember, it was then the Parks project, and it was tagged with their property.
Yeah, so actually, so that's the other side of it is depending and this, I think this would mostly come through zoning or actually Lindsay again, these projects. But in that project, that one actually ended up, at least from the cleanup side, not taking to affect the amount of time and effort from staff and county attorney's office and that stuff doing it. But I think it was a $30,000 to $40,000 cleanup bill. And then that actually, they went through the process and placed an assessment. There is an assessment, or I don't know if it's called assessment or lien on that property for the taxes. So, it gets put back. I think it's called assessment.
So that's something that, we can discuss if we would like to lower that, if you don't want to have that. I do think it's a kind of important, and in the past I've been an advocate for just having the earmark, but it's clearly not something we've spent the last.
So that did fund one,
Correct.
Yep, so far we're all in Fund 1.
and that was the only time we've ever spent any money against that, with that 30,000 or whatever.
I believe so, and I think there was some discussion that it may be needed this year, but I think Missy, I think that got worked, a small project in a different place, so
I mean,
to my knowledge, we have it.
go down to like, 25,000 or whatever, I mean, we can. Whatever.
It's entirely up to you guys and gives you the flexibility that it's there at what level, and if not, it would either, if you have something that would come up that would be bigger and there isn't a number here, you would need to say no to the project, amend, or it would get incorporated from somewhere else that wasn't used.
Let's, for now, we get to that, and figure out where.
And we don't have to go line by line.
Okay,
Don't
okay.
feel obligated in that.
Alright.
Um,
Yeah, I was gonna
but
say-
it's just like to make sure that the board knows, like, we have an amount for.
Some of the bigger, I mean, so like the next one is a relatively new number that we put in. We are using an outside source if there's ever questions about Atkins. So now there's $1,000 budgeted for that outside counsel. I mean, it's that type of thing. We have the next sections are moving into a lot of like areas for that are through IT and we call central services. So we've done more and more of the subscription-based services and things that Department 99 is taking care of the county as a whole. It seems to make sense. So several of these are that. So like the one that says information technology, software maintenance, looks like we looked back and it pays for our Adobe licenses and LastPass.
Are you on page 2?
Yeah, sorry, page 2. There's a inmate excess medical 17.5, that's up a little bit. That's what we discussed with Jason. That's that catastrophic failure, that's the wrong word. Catastrophic medical loss from a prisoner or something like that. So we have an annual insurance. It's a completely voluntary thing. If you guys didn't want to do it, we could cancel that policy, but that we've held it for several years and it's kind of a safety net a little bit. It does have a maximum out of pocket too, I believe. I don't know what it is exactly, but that's what that is.
We ever had something against it?
I believe they do use it. I'm not sure what, I'm not with it every day. I don't know if it's been a major one or they are able to use it for smaller ongoing trips to the hospital. I'm not sure. That's something that
And is that fully controlled by the sheriff's department?
well, it's only for inmate coverage. And the Fund 1 Department 99 is paying for it, but yes, it's managed through that and it went this way when it was initially started because it was more of an insurance project to help take away a catastrophic failure.
I guess
I keep using that word.
where it's going with that is we've talked about bidding out the property casualty for the entire county.
Yeah, they're working on that.
And would that be part of that? Or
That's a good question. I don't know how many, that's something that we would have to ask McKay. We purchased this through McKay Group. For that amount, I don't know that it's bid or they do that. I just simply don't know how many carriers they are for this particular.
who approved the bill?
We pay it once a year. It's a once a year bill now.
And who approved, I mean, does it just flow through you guys?
Yeah, as long as it's approved in the budget, if it, I think that.
I'd be interested in getting a bid
For next time. I'm not sure when the renewal, I just simply don't remember when the renewal is, but yes, we can ask Tanya to do that and see what other options there are.
Jake, can I move you down to page 3, like the accounting and auditing clerical? I mean, obviously there's a little bit of increase there. But
Yep.
that's just the outside auditing.
Yep, so that's our outside auditing fees. We sign a 3-year agreement with them. I do generally, you can see the progression in 2026. So in 2026, our actual invoice I always have to think about this because right now we're still working on the FY25 audit. We don't have that report yet. They were just here for that. So when 26 ends in June, that'll be the next audit that this is for, right? To pay for. So that actual invoice is 48,500 is what that agreement is. There's a $3,000 contingency if we have to do a single audit piece, which is an extra component to it. If we don't have to do that, then we won't have to pay that 3,000. We probably will yet because of ARPA money yet still. But I'm not quite sure exactly. And the feds are raising that threshold. It was $750,000. I think it's going up to $1 million in usage. So we may or may not have to do that 3,000. If Lindsay starts going on her big grant, then I would assume we'll have to do a single audit component of that every year for that, I'm assuming. And just as a side note for that, we do generally go out when we do this service agreement with an auditing firm. We are tremendously cheaper than the state. The state, if you have the state auditor, it's a lot way it's more expensive, and we get very good response. They help us with the accrual report, and they're on call. We between Michaela at the treasurer's office and us, we communicate with them quite a bit through the year. So, but that's why the increase is just it's a percentage increase. And they're local, by the way, which is kind of nice.
If we can go to page 4, Jay. So obviously we've got postage, it's increased, but I think it's important.
Which one, Keisha?
$412.99, which is the postage and mailing. That's gone up 9%. Let's skip down to House File 718 tax mailing.
Yeah.
So it's important that those constituents listening online that we have to pay $10,000, roughly $10,000 to mail that tax statement. Those it's expensive. It's something that we have to. We have been mandated by the state of Iowa to do it. It causes problems. People don't always understand the documentation that is given, but we are mandated, and it's an unfunded mandate.
Yeah.
So I just
want
to make sure that there's things that are given to us that we have to pay for, no matter what. So
if you want to go back to the mail, just for the mail, that mail line, we have a postage machine in our office. They're ridiculously expensive for the lease, but it's a pretty good machine. It can do way on the way, but we basically post most, if not all of, I don't know about the mail for the county. So that is like all departments mail. And the main users would be treasurer's offices, back and forth, assessor some on bigger projects, and then absentee ballots, things like that. Just as an example of why, postage rates keep going up, but the county sends out a lot of certified mail because it's required to for certain notices. Like it's not unusual to have, I don't know, 5 to 10 certified mail envelopes in the mail a day, and those are now over $10 a piece. So, it just goes quickly. It's amazing how fast we go through postage in that meter. On the flip side of that, hopefully, I know that they at least try to get that back through the sheriff's fees and things like that. So it would show if it came back through court collections or something like that, but it's not a direct one-to-one, but it's just incredible. And the more stuff that people want to do through the mail and online just makes that drive up more too. They would prefer to do that way than come here. And again, if we don't need it, we don't use it. You just want to keep looking down, so like the one that says email hosting, that is, so that's again one of these central services. I don't want to speak for Drew here, but that's a countywide service. I think that was increased a little bit. There's potential that we have some road department guys that don't currently have it now, so there may be a larger number of increase in it. Again, if I'm speaking properly, a subscription for the county as a whole.
Right.
On a basic number. That's kind of how most of these things are going now.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I still remember when we would get a workstation and it would have the disc, you know, and have to load it, software and stuff like that. And it's just transitioned and
I'm not that old, Jay.
there wasn't even a PC in my office when I started, so
Stitch buddy.
we had a dot matrix printer and a dumb tube. So I didn't have
The old
I
IBM
bet-
3151 green screen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Kickstart notebooks.
absolutely.
Drew, is that part of the Microsoft Office suite is where that's going?
Yes, yes.
Email?
Email, so pretty much, I know we already got licenses for the roads, but yeah, pretty much everything's gonna be those who are just have Exchange. Or else those who have the whole suite of Office, stuff like that, which is the majority of the county.
And
So,
it's based on whatever level of 365 they have.
yeah, so like dispatch and jail, they just have Exchange only. They don't have, and we have Office licenses for like Office 2024 that we just install. So they can at least use Excel or Word that way instead of paying for a whole Office 365 license. So,
And this is the full amount for those, or
I
there
don't-
may be some additional expense elsewhere?
I know I had Jake raise it up a little bit higher than what I calculated the cost of it, after the licenses. And I think, how much did we raise it up to be?
3,000, but I think that like this, it's not, departments aren't paying for it on their own anymore, I think was the
Right,
question.
it's all here.
Right. It's not paid individually by departments anymore. It's all here as a central service.
Yes, yep. So I mean, it's gonna have a couple, probably like 1,000 or whatever, under what's asked there, but that's just in case. Another license or anything
I
like
wanted
that.
to make sure it wasn't being.
Yeah,
duplicated.
that's what I thought. I thought you were asking. I don't think it's duplicated
No,
anymore.
no.
So like I don't have any of that in my department anymore. Yeah, we have like hosting of the county website. That went up a little bit to add the employee portal. Again, it's a little bit of an estimate for Neapolitan Labs.
From a systematic standpoint, do you approve these bills before they go for payment? Or can they go directly to EJ, as long as it's in the budget, they flow through?
I think, I know for like the Microsoft stuff, they come to me and then I just see code it to.
Yep.
I just would like to make sure that there are eyes on and approval before it just goes through.
Yep. So, yeah, most, liftoff sends everything towards me first before anything, so.
One of the other changes here that you'll see, maybe it's the next page for you guys, but it says copier lease payments. So that's the new transition again. So by this becoming now a central service through Marco and through Department 99, this is a switch. We currently expensed it out of that in this current fiscal year as well, but you know, that is no longer in departments, or that is those printers, at least for whoever's involved with Marco. That's most departments, I think.
Yeah, yep.
That is all captured here now and not individually.
Is there a way that we can go back and make sure that we didn't just duplicate that budget number in those individual departments?
I don't know where they all have them located themselves. Could ask the departments to do that, or confirm. I just simply don't know where each one was coming from. But
Yeah,
yes,
that-
I mean, ultimately, we should know that, but I get your point, that there wouldn't be a
It's just easy to
duplication.
say, well, that's what I spent last year, so I'm gonna spend the same
Right.
amount next year. Well, we've changed the rules.
Yeah. Then, I mean, just kind of looking on down, there's, I'm still in all in Fund 1. You know, there's different amounts budgeted that maybe don't have a specific project for its maintenance and upkeep of the courthouse or some things like that. So that's what a lot of those, you can see that it switches function areas, and then it starts moving into some of the garbage and things like that that are more centrally located.
could move to fund two.
That 300,000 for the capital project.
Yep.
Section 92, we're just not sure about that, or.
Well, no,
or is that one of the-
yeah, that's
that
when we
was
talked
the
about.
discussion we had.
Yep. So, Tyler and I talked about that again, and I do believe that that is, his goal was to, have that project wrapped up in this fiscal year and not have anything out of it. So this, is literally just a contingency. If something drags on, that we have a pay app or something in the next budget year, that we wouldn't have to do an amendment or something like that. This is flexibility to you guys on the board. There is not, he hopes it's done, and there is no offsetting revenue programmed in on a revenue side, because I like to be conservative on that. We have no idea how much you're gonna get for the clay shop or the pellet shop, and putting it in here and then not selling it for another year isn't necessarily responsible either for your projected ending fund balance. So this amount is showing here, it can come out. That is entirely up to the Board of Supervisors, and it is a contingency if that Junction 92 project isn't done yet. It's a guess.
That leave it in for now.
Hopefully. we
Okay,
won't
so
need
you
to
know
use
that when you're looking at your ending fund balance, that again, that won't be spent unless you guys know about it.
Right, yep. Jake, let's just talk real quick about the ARPA funds that are allowed.
Okay.
Is that the? Is that
Yeah,
funding the interest, or is that
so we have, what did we put at that point?
three
So,
408? It's on page 11, top page.
what's the amount? 800,
99,785.
say that again.
99,785.
Sorry. So we're looking at ARPA capital, or, oh, I'm sorry,
Yep.
you moved to ARPA.
Yep.
Sorry, I was looking at the capital improvements fund. So just the one line above that. It's fund 01007. Capital improvements fund at 845,000. You see that?
Oh, yeah, okay, okay, yeah.
Okay, so again here, that is that capital projects fund, that money, that's basically the balance that you had in your checking account when we ran this. So it gives you the authority project if you need to. And it is not there's no other outside monies coming in to it at this point either. You guys will decide where you want to put like sale of these properties and things like that, but that is basically the fund balance that you had in your
Undesignated asset.
yeah, but you have the cash, it's not tax dollars, and you have the money in the bank, so.
So we could spend, so that really, I mean, that's roughly $1 million that would affect our bottom line.
Yeah, I mean,
Right,
it's
yeah.
gonna
It's
show.
there, it's in case we need it, let's just.
Well, this gives you budget room to use money you already have.
Right,
It looks as a negative, but to that fund 01007. And you guys will decide if you want to do that $50,000 transfer again to keep adding to that or not this year. So, okay. Okay, so ARPA. We think we programmed just one line item because, and that is again the amount of
Yep.
the amount of money that's left. All of it's obligated. I know that I think there's some unused obligated portion of the original amount to finish the fuel station out there at the Capitol or at the Junction 92. And I believe there's also some room to finish the backup system. I apologize for the not knowing the exact terminology, but at the LEC, they're switching around.
Fuel management, isn't it?
No, that one's done out there. It's a backup.
Oh, backup, a generator?
Yeah,
Yeah.
backup generator switching is still, there's some portion of that yet in
So
there
there's-
as well.
Okay.
And there is, I mean, Michaela has been accruing interest on this ARPA money this whole time. That is gonna be ultimately a decision you guys will make. We programmed in this for this ARPA fund 01008, the total amount you had it at the time in there. The interest money, we started putting it into the ARPA account because, it was Wild West when all this started. And we just wanted to make sure if they required us to account for that interest that we had put it here. Now that we've kind of gone through it, there are other counties that are basically putting it into their general fund or using it. So it's you guys, it's the board, the board's decision on any of the interest that was accrued. If you want to designate that for a specific project, put it to the general fund, that's gonna be your decision. We could transfer it there. It would need to fit. We do not, from our understanding, we file this annual report for ARPA. We do not include any of that interest on the revenue side of it. They really only want to know from the initial outlay, and then we have to do in detail and projects and all that.
How much is left of that original?
It's not very much at all.
It's just interest.
Okay.
There's between those two, the Junction 92 fuel and the backup generator, whatever that finish that project is, it's not very much money at all. 100,000 or something like that. It's not very much. I mean, we've had that money now for several years and with interest rates, so Michaela has gained some interest on that. Go to fund 2.
Yeah, let's. Clearly, we've got our healthcare portion there. Life insurance, vision insurance, dental, and then, go to the second page, and see where the emergency management runs, but. And then we've got the big expenses that, Jim, as we talked about, Fort liability, and that's going out for, we started that process. See what we can do to lower that cost. But yeah. Insurance. Jake has a little bit. Let's go to page 15, second line. I think it's a payment, is that correct, for your information technology?
My pages are a little off if you're in the voting machine one. So we have been on a really nice rotation of our voting equipment. It's scary that our voting equipment is approaching 8 years old. So we're not asking to replace the voting equipment yet, but it's scary how fast that turns around. And we are finishing our payments on our 10X, which is our electronic poll book. So that'll be done. Our next rotation that we'd like to look at is replacing the iPads that we use for our electronic poll books. We went out and got a quote, and the quote was about $32,500. So we would like that possibility to purchase those and keep a rotation, so we're not doing. Last year, you guys were generous. We got a second OVCS central count machine for all the absentees. So we're not coming to you for one big lump sum. So this would be potentially to replace our iPads. That are being recommended are nearing end of service, and then the next round will be voting equipment again. But that's what this is.
Okay, and then
you go
so
to
you see the fund 11 with the secondary road transfer.
Yep. So we have out of 99, the annual support to the Humane Society is in there at the level amount. And then township clerks and trustees, we would like to address that at some point in the next year, is just compensation for trustees. Of course, we now have a third clerk position open. And I get asked every time now, how can we compensate the clerks, because they do quite a bit more. Right now, they only get the $15 per meeting, nothing for extra. If we could come up with a way to help compensate township clerks for doing the extra work that they do, that might help townships keep them.
Okay.
Again, we might not even have them next year, who knows, but
Where do I see that number, Jay?
it's a $4,000 number.
Down here on page 15.
Yeah.
Second.
Oh, I got it.
Sorry, we moved to Fund 11, Jim, sorry.
Yeah, no, I worked at that, and I was page 17.
Jake, obviously, let's see here, I don't see much. 17, we're in 29, which local option sales tax.
Yeah, so that number, again, we showed that earlier.
Yeah.
That's a projection of what you could use. Doesn't mean you have to. It allows you to spend what would be available.
We have Travis Trust on page 19, where there's a little bit of money left in that. I'm assuming Knoxville Senior Center will come. And that's gonna be wrapping that up here relatively soon. There's can't be a ton left in that. I think there was.
You want to know how much is in it today?
I know that we generally have been giving him 30,000 until it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just yes. So I don't know. I don't know what they'll do when that's done, or
That was, that Travis Trust was the gentleman that only designated film use for us, so.
Okay.
So, there's, with the 160 at the beginning, it's gone down, I think, $30 for 30,000 at a time.
if I can jump onto Michaela's side here a minute, I can tell you how much is in.
Not worried about it, you've got it in there, there must be at least 30,000.
Yeah, there is at least 30.
Yeah.
And we just programmed that because that's what you've been doing the last few years.
No, and that's probably, I think originally, a few years back, we determined that they needed to come every year to ask, and that we were doing our due diligence and monitoring funds, as Mr. Travis had wanted county to do. It's okay, Jim.
Yeah.
Don't forget about it. Fine.
Now you got me on
Okay,
45.
and then,
40. You're down to 45. So only a year or two more.
okay, and we estimate the low and moderate income housing fund will be a little higher this year.
Yeah. So So again, that is projecting what I think will be available to you in this fiscal year, the 27 fiscal year, based off of the collections. And if you remember, like Prairie Ridge, that TIF, it's collected through the TIF, then they split it out, and it's like
We could use
33%, 64. I mean, it hurts the bond payment, but it's this. So yeah, I'm projecting it to jump quite a bit.
We can use that anywhere in the county. When it comes to the low and moderate and 100% of Prairie Ridge.
And is that based upon request? Developer comes in and says, I'm gonna develop low and moderate income housing and I need county support.
Yeah.
To make development.
Yep.
That's something
Yeah.
that we can do. We have, Habitat Humanity has requested some, but it's one of those things that when we originally did Prairie Ridge, it was to be able to help those communities that, maybe not Knoxville and Pella per se, outside of that, so.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to extend growth, so.
So with that Prairie Ridge, just starting just as how it's gone, we had an actual balance in July 1 of 25, but I'm gonna round, okay, 55,000. We're projecting to take in 92 this year, 147 next year, so that gets to your total amount. The only thing spent year to date is was it Habitat that came in and asked for the $10,000 to use to get more money. So that's the only thing that's been sent so far, and they did meet the LMI requirements. It was confirmed through the attorney's office.
Once that TIF fund is paid off, then those payments back for that LMI stop.
Correct.
It's not a perpetual.
That's correct. Yeah, so that's when you think about how you're using it, you can't commit it longer term than what you'll be getting.
Okay, and then obviously, we got the revenue side, and Jake is the one that does all the assist with that when it comes to the property taxes and.
Yeah, so I mean, like, the revenue side, like the very first line is the tax ask from property tax minus the homestead credits and all those. And that is literally the valuation that we showed yesterday on the screen times $3 and whatever our is. Yeah, divide by 1,000 and then take out the credits. So it's a direct correlation. So if you would tell me to lower that or change that levy, that number, this tax amount, the net property tax would change according to however you set the levy. That's how this our software works. One of the things. Yeah, so like, you know, a couple of years ago or last year, or forget what year we're talking about, but in the current year, 26, you know, we're not getting military replacement back. They increased the amount of military exemption and they took that away, that payment away, right? One of the flexibilities that you do have is that local option sales tax coming in. The commercial and industrial replacement was when they changed the when they moved the rollback on commercial industrial from 100% to 90, they did a phase in approach. They did a 4-year buyback. That's not right word, 4-year buyback. They funded some counties 4 years and some counties 7, depending on how much you had, and gave you some money back for the loss of that 10% on commercial industrial. That's gone now. So if you see the line, it's probably maybe page 2 for you guys. That says commercial industrial replacement. It's now a 0, and last year it was 18,668.
Yep.
That's why we're at the end of the 4 years. So it's decreased each year. You can kind of see how it's gone down if you look farther on to the right, and now we just don't get it anymore. And that would flow through the general fund, general supplemental, rural, and debt service. Penalties and interest line is we just kind of leave it as is. That's a uncertainty depending on that's through Michaela and for delinquents and things like that. So on the, you know, you kind of have the overall board to-do list before we're done with our whole process.
Yep.
One of those is deciding if you want to change the distribution of that local option sales tax into Fund 1 and Fund 2.
I'm actually hoping we'll go 7.
Oh, cool. Did you have any other questions on the revenue side, non-tax related? Because that's the tax related ones are set by basically your levy.
No, I don't.
I do have just one real quick question. It's our page 14, it's 99,780 Marion County debt service. Last year was 159,432, this year 0. It says Prairie Ridge URB. The last one.
Okay.
This one is-
Yeah, so we had in that whole Prairie Ridge project, we borrowed, I don't remember how much money we borrowed, but let's say it was $5 million. Then we put that into a fund to pay those expenses back. They actually didn't certify the full usage of that, so that's what was unused out of our bond issue. So we had that setting in that fund for a few years, and it gained some interest. And the city had signed off on the project. So when we were completely satisfied, and probably a year or two later, we moved that from that bond fund into the debt service fund to help reduce the levy so that was a one-time hit to help reduce the levy of that. Gotcha. Unfortunately, there isn't any more of that, but that's what that was.
Okay, cool. Anytime you can have a 6.47% increase in revenue. Play that card as often as we can. Right.
You know, yeah. If there's no further questions regarding Department 99, we'll go on to Lost, which is at the front of your book. But I think, board, what we just need to determine is, if you look on your sheet, go to your second sheet, I guess, actually. And regarding, you know, we do 50% of it is what we consider property tax relief. Okay, so 50% goes into the fund, and then 50% goes to property tax relief. And so currently 30%, which is roughly, if we left it the same, 510,000 would go to relieve in the general fund. And then 20% would go into fund 2, which is 340,000. To me, I think it's probably best that we do leave it as is. We have in the past done more to general fund and or vice versa. I just think we're doing okay now. In the future, we may have to look at on fund 2, maybe doing more of it, maybe even a split. But yeah, if you want to look at the cash flow sheets.
These dollar amounts are already in these individual funds,
That's-
so.
That's correct.
So right now, it shows 20, for instance, 30% of that credit, 510,000 shows in Fund 1.
Yeah. So if you would want, like, say, change it 50,000 one way or the other, that would just have a direct, straight impact to your ending
Gotcha.
projected fund balance one way or the other.
I don't know about- are those-
Yeah, I mean, it's not, with the general fund being limited on the growth. You don't want to rely too heavily on this. You have it in place. I mean, it is by ballot. The fund 2, you have flexibility to change the levy, but potentially if you didn't assist and help, you would have to raise potentially have to raise the general supplemental levy. So it's doing the whole purpose of trying to keep that down.
Maybe not really.
But also it's hard, you don't want to rely on it either.
No, I get it. Yep.
So if you want to, we can go ahead and leave that.
Yeah, no, I think
And we'll prepare that and leave it in as we move through this versions here. So whatever changes is made moving forward, it'll be.
we'll have a resolution,
Yep.
I'm assuming.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Board, how do you feel about, next, let's talk about health and dental insurance. You were given a sheet.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thought maybe you were trying to get my attention.
No.
Gotta find it though, Lisa. Here it is. Okay. We were blessed this year with looking at, hardly any change at all. Actually, we were no increase to the employees and regarding their health insurance. So that's leaving things as is. And those there's no change to when it comes to the health insurance, still offering the 3 plans at this point, and plan to do that this year. Lisa, that the health insurance renewal is coming up in March, is that correct?
Actually, renewal takes effect July
Oh, sorry,
1st.
but
We'll have our meetings,
your meetings, yeah.
end of April. I don't remember the date off the top of my
Meeting in
head.
April, renewal change in July, do not want to confuse anybody. So Delta Dental, for myself, Lisa, Jake, and Danny all sit down this past week, and we looked at dental is self-funded, and we looked at how we could maybe spend down some of that funding. And so what we would like to propose, and this is obviously the board, I need you, you're just seeing this and we need you to weigh in on it. From the employees portion, currently they're spending $10.22 a month for their dental, for the single plan, we would propose that go down to $5. And then the family portion, they're currently spending a month $77.60, and proposing that go down to $68.20. So a savings of $5.22 on an employee's plan and a family plan of $9.40. That will help them spend down some of those funds.
And what is the fund balance? What is that fund right now?
So this is a benefit account, so it's outside of the sheet that you have in front of you, Jim.
Yep.
So we have $170,000 in that account right now. So we maintain separate accounts at Marion County Bank for the health insurance, dental, vision, Cobra. We run them as separate benefit checking accounts.
Okay.
So it has $170,000 right now.
The current would be, I don't have it, it's $10.20 employee and $77.60, but this is what we're proposing to go down to.
Can I make a counter, well, not a counter, in addition proposal? The employee, I certainly don't have any problem keeping that at $5 a month for an employee only plan. But I was struck by the differential that you look at from the health plan versus the dental for a family plan. So if you look at what the county pays versus what on family plans specifically, on the Alliance PPO, the Blue Advantage HMO, and the high deductible health plan, the county is still paying 73% of that total family plan on the Alliance PPO, 80% of the total family plan on an HMO, and 89% of the total family plan on the high deductible health plan. And right now, we're proposing only to pay 26% on the dental. So if you went back and said, okay, we're going to apply the lowest percentage support to dental, just like we do health insurance, that calculation should be 73% of the family premium of $91.79. So the county support portion would be $67. So then you'd have 91.79 minus $67. Then the and delta would be basically $24.79 and 25 bucks. And then that brings that into
The problem
the
with it
same
is,
realm as we're facing with the health plans.
I think the difference is being self-funded and not being self-funded, and I think I would like to take it at bids to come down, just because I don't wanna have to, because that's an incurring a cost. But, yeah.
How many, perhaps this is maybe you have this information at hand, or maybe you don't. How many family health plans do we have in Deltaville right now?
Oh, have family health plans?
Yeah, or family dental health plans?
I have dental right in front of me.
Okay, so how many family plans do we have?
We have 57.
So on an annual basis, 50, the difference right now is 23.5 million. And if we went to 67, that'd be $43 per month per times 57 families times 12 months. That would be an annual spend down of additional expense of $29,700. And you said current balance is what?
170.
170. And is that increasing, or so it would not only slow the rate, but probably do, how much is it increasing on an annual basis? Do you have projection?
I don't right in front of me. It all depends on claims. It's
Right,
it's
that's
claims
it.
driven.
Okay.
So I don't have that easily to right now.
It
Yeah.
based off of average.
Yeah.
I have some average numbers that I have taken over the years. And depending on what because we put the money in, the claims are pulled out automatically. But roughly you're adding just under 3,000 every year. That's just from the funding part of it.
Sure.
You know, and if they don't have the claims, then obviously then this can.
I mean, I think, I don't disagree that we need to do something for the employees. I certainly don't disagree with that at all.
I wonder
I-
if we
I
could
would
just keep monitoring it
I
and
would
see
just
if we can.
suggest that we at least make that somewhat more reasonable for the family plan.
And I will tell you, Jim, that from the beginning of the dental plan, and I know that this is just history, that's all I'm saying, is that we've always kept the family plan gets exactly what the single gets. Why we've done it that way, I don't know, but that's historically, that's what we've always done.
And
Is it right or wrong? I don't know.
And I'm not and I don't disagree with you, you know, I'm not necessarily suggesting that we immediately go straight to $67 support for the family plan per month.
Right.
You know, maybe we look at that and say, okay, let's take a 4-year approach and say, you know what, let's take a fourth. And just say, you know what, our total is to get back $67 off. So let's plan on that over a 4-year spread. So let's take another $16.75 support per.
Or you could, you know, or you, whatever you, yeah, you could do whatever you want. You could do the 28.59, which is the total cost of the employee plan. Or you can basically,
You can make it so if you don't want the employee to have to pay anything, that would be reducing it some. I mean, I'd be taking it down a little bit more. So family dental plan would be 0 and then taking it down to 28.50. I mean, I'm okay with that, and that brings that down a little bit more.
that would bring the family plan down to 63.19.
Yeah.
I'm just suggesting that
Yeah.
it just seems a little odd.
We've overfunded for quite a while, and then, it's underutilized benefit, obviously.
You know what, I think that sounds like a reasonable suggestion, saying, you know what? Take the employee portion to 0. I have no problem with that. And then take that same application, 28.59, and apply towards the family rate. And that way we're paying the employee portion, whether they got a family plan or a single plan.
Right, yeah, so the 28.59, taking it down to,
So your
Yeah.
23.59 becomes 28.
yeah, that's fine, I'm open with that.
Yeah.
See what your thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay,
So Lisa,
So-
if you could prepare something and we
Yeah.
can maybe do,
I'll have it on the agenda for Tuesday's meeting.
that's fine, as long as you can get it by tomorrow.
What day's today? I'm confused this week.
Today's Wednesday.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't think we
tomorrow.
have a ton for Thursday, or next week's meeting, but I don't know.
What's that?
I don't know that we have a ton of agenda items for next week.
I don't know. Danny's working on it this morning.
But yeah,
We'll
Yeah.
wanna keep it moving.
earmark for Lisa.
We'll wanna keep it moving just for the fact of we'll need to get the books and everything printed, so I appreciate you talking about it today. And I'll get that.
Awesome, appreciate that. All right, board. We got a couple of big things, let's talk about libraries. The library had presented to us, a few weeks back. And, just as a reminder, they do come out of Fund 11, so if you wanna go to your levies. Or, sorry, cash flow.
I was like, there's nothing behind my levies. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I didn't punch holes in that one.
Yeah.
I should say, I haven't.
Out and said that, do we need to, and I wasn't for sure when we would be able to get to this, so, but they've already presented to us, and I think it becomes a point where we as a board just need to discuss. How we feel, when doing their budget, after just hearing conversation, I left the amount in there for, the 95,000, that again goes. Department 99, Fund 11. But if you'll be mindful, Fund 11 is what Tyler had expressed his concern about. In regarding, that is what our rule, that's what the rule pay. And so the libraries are funded from that levy. And it's 6 3/4 cents that we are, state code, saying that we have to pay. And then we have paid an additional amount, and I know that you probably, I don't know if you have that, but I brought some of that. That Jake presents to us. Anyways, it's 95,000 is what we have in the past.
We're funding above our obligations now.
Yes, you're fine. Yeah, we are. You know, we do have a rural population of 11,627. So a third of our population is rural. But here, this is where I struggle. I'm just gonna be frank. I use the library. I know a family that uses the library. But when we are being capped at the state level, this is where the struggle is. To be able to take Fund 11 and increase it, we have to go through a huge process. And, and right now we're running a negative balance. I mean, the projection is $328,000. Wait, sorry. Fund 11. Yeah, sorry. We are running very close. We've got we're gonna net change of 273,000. That's getting that fund balance. We're gonna be down to zero within 2 years. And that was Tyler's concern. How are we going to do that? So I think that we need to consider taking, and I talked to Jake about this a little bit, I may mention maybe taking Missy's department, but I think it'd probably be easier to offset with just maybe taking a couple of the sheriff's deputies out of Fund 11 and transferring them back into the general fund, but still, that's not gonna give us much relief when this max levy is continuing to be brought down by the state also. So your general fund and your rural service basic fund is being brought down by the state. And I know the libraries, that's what they've been receiving, those 95,000. I think we should take away from them? No, but I would love to be able to provide more, but I just don't see. I don't see how we can at this point. Especially not knowing what the state is going to do when it comes to property tax reform. Just so the board is aware, I told the legislators, I was at the Capitol 2 days ago, I said, hey, listen, if you can't do something and do it looking at all tax entities, then leave House File 718 in place until you can totally revisit it all. But don't just do a knee jerk and then we're over here scrambling and not knowing how we're picking up the pieces. Because we still have to, we're mandated by code to provide services. And when the library presents to us, we don't know these projections because we don't, all the department heads haven't brought in, but clearly, yeah, this is tough. I want to hear from you guys.
So I have a question for Jake. So even though our levy rate went down, clearly it went down, it shows maximum levies 391. And odd number.
Yep.
Last year was 395. But the valuations have actually gone up.
Yeah.
So the dollar collections that went into Fund 11 did not actually go down.
That's correct.
It went up.
That's correct.
Okay.
Not as much as for the rural as the general because it's a lower valuation.
Because of the lower valuations. Is there a number that you can tell us what that went up by?
Yeah.
And can you also tell us what gets charged to Fund 11?
Yes, I can. Just if you give me a second,
Sure.
It's just on that.
I don't want to overreact to a percentage change when the dollar amount actually went up.
Right. quickest way to get that is straight off that Department of Management. So just a second. It would off that yesterday when we were looking at that max allowable. That's the number. So let me sign in here a minute. Do you have your calculator ready, Jim?
Actually, I do.
I figured you did. If I give you a couple numbers.
Yep.
Wouldn't it roughly be the 175,000?
Yeah, I think that's the range.
These numbers, the revenue versus expense.
No, so I think sorry, I'm not very good with that.
Oh, you're trying. So
Oh,
you
I
want to go
see.
25, so
Yeah.
you want to go, sorry.
Yeah.
So 382 versus, or,
425 minus 382.
yeah.
The increase, so we're talking about rural fund only.
Yeah.
So, the maximum, like just for the whole, like without not taking out who's coming out of it. This year, the max amount for rural is 3,967,000. Or you tell me when you're ready.
Yep, fire away.
3,967,456.
That's this year.
That's this year. Last year, the max allowed was 3,751,523. Whatever the difference is, that's your tax, that's the tax collection growth allowed this year from last year.
215,933.
So that's the allowable increase at the max rural levy.
And that's what we've got in our spreadsheet.
That's correct. So your next question was what comes out of,
Yeah,
There's probably
we
another
use it
revenue
for?
that's coming into this sheet.
say that again.
This sheet alone, it's probably got other revenue when
Yeah.
if you're looking at all revenue.
Yes. Yeah,
That's
that's just
the
the,
Fund 11, that's just
that's
taxable.
just the tax act.
Yeah.
That's just the tax portion. There's not a whole lot of outside funding that comes into 11, but there would be some. I'm not drawing any, but it's nothing huge.
Right.
Okay, so what comes out of it? The main is the secondary road transfer that Tyler talked about yesterday, and
Yep.
that's what did he say? 3/4% of it or something. It's the vast majority. And then the library funding comes out of Fund 11. These are the main ones.
Yep.
The zoning office is funded out of Fund 11. And then we fund it's 4 deputy salaries out of Fund 11. And that was a switch a few years ago, several years ago, many years back. They used to all come out of Fund 1. And then we moved a few into Fund 11. And then
Is there a
the,
share the logic?
yeah,
I don't know.
there's a couple different logics. One is that the deputies mainly service rural residents outside of towns. So it's rural, paid for by rural township, the 12 townships only. So that's the theory, is that they mainly deal with outside city limits. They do go do stuff inside as well. But that's that's the theory or why. And the other was relief to the general fund. So that's what several counties now are moving. The opposite of what we're proposing is to move 1 or 2 back to the general fund. Well, we're proposing it, but that's a thought. And that is because they're under this new House File 17 limitation. They don't have the valuation growth that we have. Their general fund is just getting squeezed like this. So they're doing everything they can to move stuff out of the general fund to the general supplemental or the rural. So that's what a lot of counties are doing. Like some counties didn't have their health insurance in general supplemental. They were taking out of general fund. And like, man, so they're going the opposite.
And does House File 718 apply only to the general fund, or does it apply to these funds as well?
It only applies to Fund 1, the general fund, and Fund 11, the rural services fund.
So Even if we moved it, we're just moving it from one limited fund to another.
We are, the thing is we have more, yes.
There's a higher fund
But we
balance.
have a much higher fund balance and much more flexibility with the general fund than, yeah. And it is a countywide levy, so everybody does pay it, but there's a lot more valuation to draw from. So what may take 10 cents to pay for in the rural would only take 5 in the general because it's split out valuation countywide. I'm using that as a complete example, but the rural valuation only goes by the valuations to the township. It's a smaller piece. The countywide levies of Fund 1 and Fund 2 are on the whole county.
And the full amount of the library support comes out of Fund 11.
That's correct.
So is that a requirement that it has to only come out of one fund, or can we fund it out of, can we put a line item in the general fund? And here's my logic.
Yeah.
With this, okay?
Yep.
So as I'm trying to get the funding sources with where the expenses really occur, right?
Right.
And a big portion of this, the library supports inside municipalities. They're not necessarily rural,
Mhm.
right? So, would those not be applied more towards general fund overall,
Yeah.
rather than just the rural services?
Right.
Because everybody pays county taxes, right? Even inside the city, you pay a portion of the county tax.
Right.
So to me, it would seem logical to say, okay, what portion of my property valuations are rural versus what portion of my property valuations are inside the municipalities?
Right.
Pick the number that we're gonna support the libraries with and do that split and say, I don't know, if it stays at 95, 60 goes to the general and 35 comes out of Fund 11.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, and I just tell you how the code is interpreted, how it's written.
I think we'd have to
The-
do the max
it's-
levy out of Fund 11.
The code reads, and code can be, you can interpret it, counties, it says rural. It literally says rural in the code section. I don't have it with me.
Sure.
It does go on to make a little bit of gray about other funding sources or something at the end, but the code is specific as specific as and that's the way it's interpreted, is that it needs to be from rural, which is township. So it's kind of given that we're doing it that way.
Yeah.
Could you ask that for an attorney general's opinion or an attorney's opinion? Yes, we would want to do that before we moved it, but that's the way it reads. I don't have the code section in front of me, but that's why, is because it says rural.
It would just seem to me to be
Yeah.
logical to say,
Yeah, and
we'll match the revenue to the expenses, right?
right. I believe when they presented, they try to say that, this is pertaining to rural checkouts and that they have their own city fundings as well. But that particular code section says rural. And I can just say, I mean, I'm a library guy. I would say that I'm a library guy too. This is a tough decision. I'm glad I don't make it. But the 6 3/4 cents, that funding, the minimum funding level, would be a 70,531 limit, is what the minimum would be. So effectively, the 95,000 is a 9 cent. It's a 9 cent levy, is what it is. Yeah.
I just would have a lot of heartburn in having to reducing somebody's support when the funds actually are getting an additional $216,000 in dollars.
Yeah.
If that was going down, I say should have paid. But I just, to me, it seems like after and this is just one guy, right? I was thankful that the libraries came in and said, you know what, like gave us last year's fund.
Yep. And what is programmed in your budget is at that amount. So that is in.
It's programmed at 95.
Yep.
But I just left it off where it was because I didn't want to speak on behalf of the board. But
No, I'm in favor of leaving it at 95.
Jake, do you want us to do a motion on that, or do you want us to hear?
I don't that's up to you. If you want an official motion, that will be, it's what's in the budget now. You guys will approve the budget as a whole. However you guys are most comfortable with that. It's up to you.
Go ahead and. You're okay with that, we're glad to make a motion so then we can plan accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I move we maintain, the funding to the library at $95,000 for this year.
I'll support.
McCombs,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
John.
Okay, thank you, everyone, that's hard.
It is hard.
It is hard, and thank you for supporting the libraries.
One last one, and then we'll be done for today. Compensation board. Board, we were presented, our compensation report, from compensation board. You should have that. It's a sheet, you know, do you have the sheet? Okay. Alright, okay. Well, I can highlight it for you. So overall, the board, recommended that, they give their scenarios and, they went through and voted to give, it's a 4% wage increase, to all departments. So motion by Lyle for 4% increase across the board, and then seconded by Alfred Klein. And the vote was, everybody aye except Kevin Kincaid. The sheriff had asked for an increase of compensation for back to blue, cerebral to back to blue, and I believe that was either a 17 or 18%. Just looking at it, what it do is currently the county, I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, I'll just read them off. The county attorney would be, he currently makes $152,195. That would bring him up to $158,283. There's some change in there. I'm not gonna repeat it, okay? The auditor was, it's $100,201 currently. That would propose would be $104,209. Board of Supervisors is currently $45,449, and that would put us at $47,267. Recorder is $94,703 to $98,492. The sheriff is at $142,924. That would put him at $148,641. And then the treasurer is $95,569 to $99,392. And then the board of supervisor chair is current at $1,500 extra, and they propose that is a $2,000. It's a 4% wage increase. If you recall, we as board of supervisors did not take an increase. We can take this and individually review them. I think that the compensation board was equitable, I guess. I don't know that we can use the word fair, but equitable. And I guess I don't necessarily have a problem. I personally, I'm gonna speak just as a board of supervisor. I think this job takes a lot. I do think that we should give ourselves a wage increase this year.
Well, I know we haven't taken any a couple of years.
Yeah, there's been at least the 8 years that I've served, there's been at least twice, if not 3 times, that we've not taken a wage increase, so.
No, I'm willing to accept the compensation board's suggestion.
Yeah, me too. And I think the additional compensation chairs not nearly enough, quite frankly, for all the extra effort and things that we have to deal with, whether it's meetings, phone calls, emails, etc. I would not be opposed to seeing that be a little bit more as the chair compensation, but I mean, I'll defer to the rest of you guys, but otherwise I agree with you. I think everything else is very thoughtful increase and equally applied, so no issue.
I just think that at this point, it's been recommended by the compensation board that I don't personally feel like I should change it outside of what they recommended. You know, So.
I agree with Jim.
I get it, but I mean, at the same point, I don't know what other, I guess that's something we could study further about what other supervisors pay for their chairs. If there's addition, but at this point,
I mean,
Fine with that.
we've given other departments.
and I think if I recall right,
Stipend.
it's, yeah, Bill Shepherd at the time, looked at what we used to pay the ADA coordinator and some of the floodplain manager coordinators, and I think that's where I think he visited with Lisa about that. And, so maybe that's what I'm assuming, I believe, I don't recall at the meeting, that's kind of where he come off with that, so. Yeah.
Well, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
So we need to make a motion to accept worker compensation board recommendation.
I move we accept the compensation board recommendation.
I'll support.
McCombs,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Johnner.
With that, thank you, everyone. I think I would like to state, I plan to be able to wrap up tomorrow. We're gonna be a day ahead. Tomorrow we will listen to, my goal is to listen to the rest of those departments. And then we will discuss, the levy rate and then talk a little bit about, appropriation. And then I'd like to finalize, I'd like you to think about, moving a deputy or two from Fund 11 back into Fund 1. So those are the things I'd like to accomplish tomorrow. And hopefully we can wrap up in the morning session. I appreciate everybody's diligence and yeah. That, and motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Support.
McCombs,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Johnner.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, folks.